and YouTube channel. By participating in the open public meeting, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded and posted online. Thank you very much. And we'll start with the resolution moved by Member Green, second by Member Creaser. Be it resolved, the Committee of Adjustment agenda dated September 13th, 2021 be adopted. All those in favor? That's carried. And moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved, the minutes dated August the 9th, 2021 be adopted and approved as circulated. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And Rachel, would you like to do your speech there, please?
Good morning, everyone, and welcome. It is required that I make a few statements, and then I will explain the procedures of the hearing. This electronic hearing is being held in accordance with Section 238 of the Municipal Act 2001 due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The members of the Committee of Adjustment present are Chair Alan Edwards, members Joe Quinn, Lisa Grogan Green, Rob Bosworth, and Sharon Creaser. I confirm that we have a quorum. The members of the township staff present are Derek Hammond, CAO, David Pink, Director of Development Services and Environmental Sustainability, Bryce Sharp, Manager of Planning, Caitlin Walker, Planner 1, Kristen Darling, Planner 1, Sam Soya, Planner 2, Deeksha Marwaha, Planning Technician, Lauren Cochran, Planning Services Assistant, Elizabeth Markle, Planning Clerk, and myself, Rachel Mulholland, Secretary Treasurer of the Committee of Adjustment. Public input on this September 13th, 2021 agenda was invited at the following email address, planning@muskokalakes.ca. It should be noted the motions have been pre-populated with random movers and seconders to expedite the meeting. When it is time to vote, members shall physically raise their hand until the chair has confirmed the vote. If the vote is unclear, a verbal vote shall be recorded. This is not considered a recorded vote. Now I will explain the hearing process. The planner will provide an explanation and purpose of the application. The date notice was circulated and will present any submissions received. The planner will also provide the planning staff's comments. Committee will then hear from the applicant or the applicant's agent if they wish to add any information or to substantiate their proposal. Please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records when you're on camera. Committee will hear from those in support of the application and those in opposition to the application. Again, please provide your name, mailing address, and postal code for our records. If you are here to speak on an application, please wait to raise your hand in Zoom until the planner presents the relevant application. Committee will then hear the applicant or the applicant's agent respond to any questions or concerns raised. Committee will then have the opportunity to ask questions of the applicant and/or staff. Committee will debate the application and make a decision based on the information presented at the hearing. For consent applications, committee is required to give the effect of written and oral submissions in their decision. For minor variance applications, committee is required to give the effect of written and oral submissions and reasons for the decision. It must be noted that the chair has a vote on each application and can participate in the discussion. There is a 20-day appeal period from the date of the decision. In the case of a minor variance application, a building permit is not available until after the appeal period and no appeals are received. When you are present at the hearing, please provide us your name and mailing address. Any presentation is limited to 5 minutes unless otherwise permitted by the committee. Please note the resolutions are automatically written in the positive to assist in completing decisions as opposed to writing out each resolution. This does not in any way mean an application is going to be approved. One last thing, please take down the pink sign that was posted advertising this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mahone. And The first application is B 4421 and A 4321. Broude, and that is Ms. Walker.
Good morning, Chair Edwards and members of committee. The first application to be heard are consent applications B 4421ML and minor variance application A-43/21 in the name of Broude. The subject lands are known municipally as 2324 Highway 141 Unit 33. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch and site plan starting on page 49 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. Consent application B/44/21ML has been submitted to sever a portion of the subject property and add it to an abutting lot. The application will have the effect of correcting an encroachment of a carport and is a change of common lot lines. Minor variance application A-43/21 has been submitted to permit a dwelling addition and recognize several as-built structures. The applicants are also proposing to remove an existing covered porch, an existing woodshed, privy, and pergola, and relocate an existing shed. Minor variance application A-42/21 will permit a lot coverage of 8.9% within 200 feet of the high water mark where 8% is permitted. Permit an as-built garage and landing to be 14 feet and 12.5 feet from the southeasterly side lot line respectively, where 15 feet is permitted. Permit an as-built sun deck and associated with the dwelling to be 13 feet from the southeasterly lot line where 15 feet is permitted. Permit an as-built sun deck and stairs associated with the sleeping cabin and inclinator to be 8 feet from the southwesterly lot line where 15 feet is permitted. Permit an as-built sun deck associated with the sleeping cabin to be 0 feet from the high water mark where 50 feet is permitted. And to permit an as-built dock to be 82 feet in width where 15.3 feet is permitted and 4 feet from the southeasterly side lot line projection where 30 feet is permitted. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance and 5 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has provided the following comment. Additions to the dock have been constructed illegally without the issuance of a building permit. If approved, a building permit would be required to legalize any addition constructed without a building permit. If not approved, dock additions constructed without a permit are required to be removed. A demolition permit will be required to ensure inspection and compliance with committee's decision. The second submission is by the District Municipality of Muskoka Planning and Economic Development Department. The department has no objection and requests to be notified of committee's decision. That is signed by Emily Crowder, district planner. The third submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician. The public works department has no objections. The fourth submission is by Sandy Boss, township building inspector, stating there are no concerns in regard to on-site sewage systems. And the fifth submission is by Anthony Rogers, a neighboring property owner to the southeast. Anthony has commented that he has no objection to this application. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of consent application B/44/21ML, staff have recommended that such approval be conditional upon the following. 1, that a registerable description of the severed lot and required rights of way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. And 2, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge on title to the lot it is being added to upon registration of the transfer/deeds. Staff have some concerns with minor variance application A-43/21 and have recommended that the application be adjourned and revised to indicate a reduced dock width and improved setback to obtain an opinion from a qualified environmental professional with recommendations on how to best achieve this reduction. It is the understanding of staff that the applicants are agreeable to obtaining an opinion from a qualified environmental professional and to the reduction in the dock width, and are going to request that the dock reduction be addressed through an agreement along with the removal and or relocation of the required structures. Staff would have no objection to this approach. Staff have no further comment at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Walker, is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this? We do have an agent, I believe.
Yes, they're both here. The applicant and I'm bringing in the agent.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Is it my turn? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So good morning. I would like to thank Chair Edwards and the members of the Special Adjustments Committee for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Deirdre Broude. I live at 2324 Highway 141, Unit 33. Postal code is P0B1M0 on Skeleton Lake. I'm a recently retired professional engineer, and I have spent the entirety of my career with Enbridge. And my position prior to retirement was managing our environmental department. So I am very keen on sustainability and managing the natural shoreline of our property. You know, upon moving to Skeleton Lake, I immediately joined the board of the Skeleton Lake Cottages Association in the role of the Director of Stewardship to pursue my passion and commitment to the environment. And I joined the board of the Muskoka Women's Advisory Group. So I am here to stay and live and commit my energy to this community. You know, when we purchased this property, we really were in awe of the landscape, you know, the granite slopes, the purity of the water, and we really didn't realize there were a number of, or quite a few non-conformance issues associated with this property. And neither did we have any knowledge of the encroachment of our neighbor's carport, which we recently found out was built under a building permit and inspected by the town years ago. And I think had we known the challenges that we were facing and this kind of upward hill we had to traverse, we might have made a different decision in purchasing this property. But nonetheless, you know, we recognize the non-conformances and we have made commitments to bring these into conformance in the most reasonable way possible. So Caitlin, can you put up the presentation that I sent, please?
We're just working on it. If you give us one moment, sorry.
Okay, just keep going. So really the components of the project that impact our lot coverage include, you know, the addition of 196 square feet for a Muskoka room and extending our front foyer by 82 square feet to address an unsafe staircase. So you can see here and on the left-hand side in the blue are the bits or the pieces that we want to add. And on the right-hand side, you can see these, the stairway that I have to navigate, and my poor little miniature schnauzers have to try to get up and down every morning. Next slide, please. So our project challenges really are associated with lot coverage within 200 feet. So the previous owners, I have to state, you know, that these have all been inherited as well as a beautiful property, but they really require removal of a tool shed, a wood shed, a privy, the sun deck roof, along with gifting the encroached land to address the carport. And of course, you know that, you know, every square inch of property is precious to a property owner. So we are really, you know, giving up a fair bit in terms of the actions that we have to take. One of the asks that I had, you know, we have a sun deck on our the lake house. It's actually a sleeping cabin now. It was the original cottage built in, I think it was the 70s. And I'm asking that if we could possibly have relief from the requirement to remove the sun deck cover. It is integral to the structure and the visual appearance of the building. Next slide, please. So the minor variance was submitted for lot coverage within 200 feet. And the planning staff have included all the other inherited non-compliances. And, you know, the intent really is to clean up a lot in terms of all of the bits and pieces that are non-compliant. Now, this includes a dock, which is quite wide. And to tell you the truth, when we first came to see the property, we commented on the extent of this deck. And, you know, it was one of the things that we were not happy with because it's paralleling the shoreline. It was built 13 years ago with a permit from the town, which covered a dock repair. So the permit was for the dock repair. But it's our belief that the extended, when the owner was building the inclinator, he realized he had nothing on the shoreline to attach this inclinator to. And we believe that that necessitated the extension of the dock structure. It doesn't really forgive the fact that this was done unpermitted. Now, as Caitlin mentioned, we are committed to reducing the dock to the original 55 feet and undertake financial security to ensure that this work is done. And the section of the dock remaining will still require a variance from the setback because we're going to need to leave the part of the dock on the side of the house in the inclinator and not the original side it was on years ago. So if you go to the next slide, it just shows a schematic there of which side of the dock we propose to remove. And it's not to scale. Okay, so you can see the red markings on the left showing it's on the left side of the dock. And on the picture here on the right, you can show that this is the piece of the dock that we will be removing. It is a partial crib and a partial I-beam steel structure. Can you go to the next slide, Caitlin, please? So our ask really is, we have to do a fair bit of work and at a fair cost to bring our property into compliance. And we are just asking for fair and reasonable treatment in the consideration of this dock that we inherited. We are, and we will continue to meet the terms of the town requirements. We have, when we purchased this property, applied for the purchase of the shore road allowance, which was actually a condition of the original owner when he had the minor variance to build the house, and removing all structures that do not comply. Changes to the structures will be costly, and it's going to require some time to arrange for the appropriate consideration from whatever organizations or ministries that are required, and even getting contractors in to do this work. So that we are requesting that this piece of work not delay the approval of the minor variance nor the building permit. Parts of our renovation include, changes to our roof structure and are sensitive to timing. So we are quite anxious to meet the scheduling window that will ensure project success. And strangely enough, that is in the winter time where there is not the rain and the precipitation that will damage the inside of our home. And we commit to undertaking a financial security to ensure the work is completed to the satisfaction of the town. Next screen. So in summary, we are committed to making the Township of Muskoka Lakes our home. We continue to be upstanding and trustworthy community members, and our intention is to comply with all of the requirements of the town, proven by our actions to date. So that is the end of my portion, and I would like to thank the committee for the opportunity to address the town's concerns.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to this application? Okay, then, seeing none, are there questions from the members? Yes, Member Creaser.
Not so much a question as I would go with approval on the consent, but I agree with the staff. The deferral is necessary for the minor variance. Although I would like to agree with the applicant that the extra roof over the sun deck is of little significance and should be added to the coverage. I don't think we need to suggest that roof be removed. However, I'd like to see a proper redone application to show that. And I'd like to find out what the environmental consultant says about how we're going to change that dock. So once again, approve on consent.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else have any questions or comment on that?
Can I just add some context?
Pardon?
Can I just add some context?
Yes, just 1 second. Mr. Sharp's going to add a comment on this. So what I will do is I will mute myself and turn the sound off so we don't get an echo. Here we go.
Good morning, members of committee. I just wanted to provide a bit of context, just so that hopefully we can try to avoid some confusion. I know that when staff wrote a report, the report in your agenda package does recommend a deferral. Following the publication of that report, I had quite a long conversation with the applicant, and I was, sorry, I'm seeing
I'm just wondering
Bosworth.
if Chair Edwards could turn his sound off, please. We've got a
So
terrible
we can't
echo.
hear you. Oh, I know why. Sorry, what's that?
If you could just turn your sound off. There's an echo. Thank you.
Okay, can you hear now?
Go ahead, Bryce.
Sorry, what was this comment?
You want the sound turned down? If I don't turn my sound down, I'll get an echo.
Mr. Sharp, there was a bad echo and it stopped now.
Okay, can you hear me now? Okay, yeah, sorry for the confusion. So as I was saying, following the publication of a report, I had a long conversation with the applicant about how we might approach this in a different way. And under Section 45 of the Planning Act, the committee is able to enter into an agreement with an applicant. And I think this is a situation where we could enter into an agreement. We actually have a draft resolution to that effect. And I think that it can be worded, or it has been worded in such a way that it can address all of the issues that staff have mentioned in our report, specifically the reduction of the dock width. The applicant is willing to enter into the agreement. They're willing to put down a financial security. The agreement can be worded such that the dock removal will be undertaken in conformity with, for example, Fisheries Act requirements, and that any implications, if necessary, could be addressed by an environmental consultant. So I think in this instance, it's a bit unorthodox, but just to keep things moving along for the applicant, they've been very patient with us as we work through all of these matters, and they're clearly looking to get them addressed. So if committee was willing to approach it in that way, staff wouldn't have any objection. Thank you. I'd be happy to answer any further questions. Thanks.
Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Chair, I would be willing to go along with what Mr. Sharp has suggested, but I don't know if that included not reducing the size of the overhang on the waterfront building. I agree with the applicant. I think that's an integral part of the design of the building. I think we should just add it to the coverage.
Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on this application or the roof line? Are the committee willing to leave the roof line as is then? Yes. Yes. Member Green? Sorry, I can't hear you.
So the previous owner put that on?
Yes.
Mhm. I'm okay with it. I am wondering why there are no drawings of the new building. Isn't there?
I don't believe there's a new building.
Oh, I
Just
thought there
a
was a new 2 stories?
No.
There isn't. Okay, I understand.
No.
Yeah, I'm okay with the covered porch.
Okay. Any other comments on this? So, yes, just a second. Mr. Sharp.
Just so I'm clear, is the covered roof section, the section that's extending off the sleeping cabin, is that the section that committee would be willing to have remain?
Yes.
Okay, my only comment would be that in this instance, if you were looking to do that, we would need to adjust the variance, I believe,
On
in
the lot coverage.
the resolution and the lot coverage. And I'm just not exactly sure how those numbers would work out. It's probably something we need to perhaps we could perhaps calculate it during like a break or something. So I just thought I'd mention that.
Okay, then the way this is going, rather than actually deferring it and coming back, we'll adjourn it and come back later in the meeting with the proper calculations of the roof, so we get lot coverage and everything else like that. Is the applicant willing to wait a little while? You have to turn your mic on.
I'm here till around 11. I have a celebration of life to go to. If it delays things, or if like, I'm not married to the fact that can't come down. And I do realize that it increases the lot coverage, but really, as far as I'm concerned, it's kind of like a offset by the encroachment piece that we have had of the carport. So I am amenable to come back, yes.
Okay.
Long
Oh,
answer.
so you would like us to come back to the next meeting then? Is it what you're saying?
No, later today.
No, not to the next.
No. Okay.
No, I would like to make sure we get this sorted out today. I don't want to waste
That's
any
what
more
I'm trying to do for you.
discussing that.
So,
Thank you.
okay.
I appreciate that,
So,
Jared.
We normally take a break at about 10:15 or something like that. We can maybe work something out and then bring that right back after our comfort break, if that suits you. You said you had what, it was 11 o'clock?
Yeah, I have to leave to go into Toronto about 11:15.
Okay, we'll see what we can do. And if we're passing it, you don't even have to be here at that time, believe it or not. And that if we make that amendment and leave the roof on. Okay?
Perfect. Okay, I just want to make sure that there is not an adjournment, that it,
Okay, no,
so I
we'll
appreciate that.
handle
Thank
it.
you very
Like,
much.
it'll either be with leaving the roof on or taking it off. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your consideration. Thank you, everyone.
And so we'll just come back to that one. So we'll go on to the next application, which is B4221. Murby? And that is Mr. Sawyer.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the next application to be heard is consent application B4221 ML in the name of Murby. The subject lands are located at 1440 Moon River Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted sketch on page 69 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The subject lands currently consist of several adjacent properties that are on a registered plan of subdivision and are all owned by the applicant. The applicant proposes to merge several of these existing lots and to reconfigure lot lines through a lot addition, resulting in the consolidation of parcels into 2 resultant lots. The proposed 2.1 acre resultant lot number 1 involves 3 of the plan of subdivision lots being merged with a 0.8 acre parcel that is to be severed from the abutting property to the east. So this lot has frontage on the Moon River and is vacant except for a dock that serves as a waterfront landing to provide access to Kimberley Island. The retained lands are then to be merged with another plan of subdivision lot to form the 4.3 acre resultant lot number 2, which also has frontage on the Moon River and contains an existing garage. A deeming bylaw application has also been submitted by the applicant to deem the plan of subdivision lots not to be on a plan of subdivision. This deeming application will be considered by council and will have the effect of allowing these lots to merge. The consent application involves a change in lot lines only, and no new lots are being created. Notice of this public hearing was circulated 17 days in advance of the meeting in accordance with the Planning Act, and 4 comments have been received to date. The first submission is by the Township's Chief Building Official, Nick Snyder, advising that there are no Ontario Building Code concerns. The second submission is by the Public Works Technician, Tim Sopko, advising that the portion of Moon River Road that provides access to the southerly resultant lot that portion is not maintained by the township, and it is the preference of the Public Works Department that all properties be accessed by a publicly owned and township maintained road. Planning staff would agree that access from a township public maintained road is preferable. However, the resultant lot does front on a navigable waterway where the township's official plan policies would not require public road access in this case. This third submission is from Building Inspector Sandy Boss, advising that there are no concerns related to sewage disposal systems on the lands associated with the lot addition. The fourth submission is by Emily Crowder, District Planner, advising that the District Municipality of Muskoka would not be opposed to approval, provided that any future development is located outside of the floodway and that stratum 2 deer wintering habitat is conserved through appropriate development control techniques. Staff have noted that a portion of the subject lands are within the floodway of the Moon River and within the stratum 2 deer wintering habitat, and the township's site plan control process can be used to appropriately locate any future development that triggers this process. No submissions from members of the public have been received to date. I have prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no concerns with the application, and the standard conditions for a lot addition have been recommended, along with the requirement for the deeming bylaw to be approved and finalized. I have no further comments at this time, but would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The applicant's agent.
Okay, that's Mr. Bunker. Okay.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Sam, for that presentation. I'm just really here just to answer any questions there might be. I just wanted to add a few comments.
Can we have your name and address and postal code, please?
Yep, sorry. I'm agent for Mr. Murby, Tim Bunker, TA Bunker Serving Limited, 150 John Street North in Gravenhurst, P1P 1 Victor 4. Yeah, so I just wanted to add a few comments. So the Murby families own these properties since 1941. Lots 1 through 9 on Plan M63. Mr. Murby's father acquired the backland piece in 1943. And since that time, it's been kind of the family cottage. And what we're really trying to do here is just take some of the smaller lots of record, merge them together to create larger lots. And this is to allow Mr. Murby just to clean up some estate items. He's an elderly gentleman. With respect to access, there is existing access through 4 lots 1 through 3, where the waterfront landing is on lot 1 as well. So we're not really, because we're not creating any lots, we're just kind of trying to keep the existing use basically the same, but making lots bigger. Yeah, that's pretty much all I have, but if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Is there
Thank you.
anyone else who wishes to speak in support of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Seeing no one, are there questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Just a question probably for the planner. What are the implications of consolidating the three together and making it non-subdivision? Is there anything that the committee should be considering?
Mr. Choi, can you answer that?
Through you, Mr. Chair. So the consolidation of the existing plan of subdivision lots is seen by planning staff as an improvement really over the existing situation in terms that especially one of the three lots that are being merged would be considered a building lot today, and so really they're being increased to a size where development could be appropriately set back from the shoreline, and other such considerations like the flooding area and everything like that could be addressed appropriately.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Anyone else have any comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Green, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved, consent be granted for application B 4221 Murby, providing following conditions are fulfilled. Excuse me. 1, a registrable description deed of the severed lot, along with any required right-of-way, be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a deeming bylaw be approved and finalized to remove the status of lots on the plan of subdivision, and that any existing lots on the registered plan M63 necessary to form the resultant lots. And 3, that a legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed and retained lots will merge in title to the lots for which they are being added to upon registration of the transfer deeds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. We need justification.
Pardon me?
Do we need justification on that? And
Yeah, reasons.
reasons, very good planning report. It's an improvement of what exists now,
And the effect of written and oral submissions.
and excellent written and oral submissions.
Alan, we have the lot coverage figured out for Murby if you wanted to deal with that now.
Yeah, okay. If we could go back to the first one then, please. Hopefully the applicant is still on the line. And that Ms. Broude still here? Okay, you can go and go ahead with it. Do I have to shut everything down again?
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I can just clarify, we have now calculated the lot coverage, including the covered roof portion that committee would be willing to have remain, and that the lot coverage within 200 feet would be 2,030 square feet, which would result in a lot coverage of 9.5% within 200 feet from the high water mark. And again, if committee was willing to approve that amount, the resolution can be amended accordingly.
Any questions or comments on that? Are you willing to go to that, or yes, I see 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we can leave that.
So I'll just have to amend the resolution before you read it.
Yeah. Give me a moment, please. That's both of them.
You want me to read this, Alan, or do you want?
Yeah, you can read that one. Just a second.
I'm just wondering, we should read the consent application, the consent resolution first.
Yeah,
So do you
okay.
want to read that?
Yeah, I can do that one. Thank you. Okay, so this is the consent. Moved by member Bosworth, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 4421 ML Broude, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. One, a registrable description deed of the severed lot and any required right of way be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with the registered copy of the reference plan. Two, the legal undertaking be submitted in order to confirm that the severed lot will merge in title to the lot that is being added to upon registration of the transfers deeds. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried.
We'll need the reasons and effects on that for the consent part.
And we need reasons and effects.
It's an encroachment.
Good oral submission.
Okay. Anything else? Is that enough?
An improvement over the existing situation regarding the dock.
Right, okay. Okay, do I read that now? Just want to shut everything down here.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I'll go ahead and read the amended minor variance resolution as directed by committee. Moved by member Bosworth, seconded by member Creaser. Be it resolved that application A-43/21/ML to permit the construction of a screened room, entrance and rear porch additions and to recognize an as-built garage with an associated landing, sun deck, stairs, and a dock with the following variances being granted. I, to permit a lot coverage of 2,030 square feet or 9.5% within the lot area 200 feet from the high water mark. To permit an as-built garage to be 14 feet from the southeasterly side lot line. To permit an as-built landing associated with the garage to be 12.5 feet from the southeasterly side lot line. To permit an as-built sun deck associated with the dwelling to be 13 feet from the southeasterly side lot line. To permit an as-built sun deck and stairs associated with the sleeping cabin and inclinator to be 8 feet from the southwesterly lot line. To permit an as-built sun deck associated with the sleeping cabin to be 0 feet from the high water mark. To permit an as-built dock to be 55 feet in width. To permit an as-built dock to be 4 feet from the southeasterly side lot line projection. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. One, that a satisfactory agreement under section 45 subsection 9.1 of the Planning Act be entered into with the township along with securities wherein the owners agree within a specified time limit to remove a privy, to remove a woodshed, to relocate a shed in compliance with applicable zoning provisions, to reduce the width of an as-built dock to 55 feet, to adhere to any obligations under the Federal Fisheries Act in regard to the removal of a portion of the as-built dock, which may require that a satisfactory opinion by a qualified environmental professional be submitted to the township, and to finalize the purchase and closure of the open original shore allowance fronting the lot. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. And I'm just noticing now in our resolution that it had indicated be it resolved that application A-43/21/ML Broude be approved. It's actually A-43/21. There is no ML. So I just wanted to clarify that for committee. This isn't the consent resolution that I'm reading. So we'll go ahead and vote on that.
Okay, are there any questions? And that, are there any questions? Okay, I'll ask that, and that, all those in favor? And that is carried. And we need reasons.
It's an improvement on the site, definitely. Lower impact on the shoreline. Accommodates a difficult water access situation.
Okay,
Any effects on the reports and presentations?
actually, there were good reports, and the applicant made a good in that statement by reducing the dock, and therefore we can leave the roof as is. Thank you. And the next application is B 4521 ML. And that is Ms. Darling.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is consent application B 4521 in the name of Rondelet. The subject property is known municipally as 14 Island Grandview, Unit M72. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketch on page 85 of the agenda package. The purpose and the effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to create one additional lot, severance application B 1520 ML Rondelet. To create one new lot was conditionally granted by Committee of Adjustment in October of 2020. The applicant wishes to further subdivide the severed lot. The lots are vacant and no development is proposed at this time. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 18 days in advance, and 4 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. He has no objection. The second submission is by Emily Crowder, the District of Muskoka's planner. District staff would not be opposed to the approval of the application, provided the appropriate development control techniques are used to conserve thermal cover, deer feeding areas, and movement corridors, and ensure that any future development occurs outside the area that is high wild land fire hazard risk. The third submission is by Tim Stopko, Township Public Works Technician. He has no objection. And the fourth submission is by Sandy Boss, Building Inspector. There is an area for development and on-site sewage. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. Staff have recommended standard condition as consent requiring a registrable description of the separate lot to be submitted and any required right-of-way. Consent agreement be entered into with the township where the applicant agrees to not utilize public parking and docking facilities as the principal means of access. That a cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5%. And lastly, that prior consent application B 1520 ML be finalized prior to this application. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Darling. And I believe we have the applicants and the applicant's agent here. With the applicant's agent wishing to speak first?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, good morning, Chair Edwards, members of committee, Stephen Fauner, Northern Vision Planning Limited, 109 Meadow Heights Drive, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1A4. I'm here representing Liz Rondelet, and I believe her husband may be on this as well, Mr. David Grand. First, I'd like to thank staff for the positive report, and I think Kirsten, I think, had a great day to go out for a site visit. Unfortunately, I was sick that day and couldn't make it. But anyways, we have no objections to the proposed conditions of consent. I do have a PowerPoint presentation. I'll be very quick because committee did see this property last year. Yes, thank you. I think you're quite aware of the proposed lot sizes here. There, even though we are dividing the previous severed lot, and I'll just get to that sketch in a moment, these lots are of considerable size, and they certainly meet the OP and zoning bylaw requirements. So each with 445 feet of frontage and at least 2.3 acres. Next. Again, their previous approval, it was a large lot, and it was divisible. Next. So this is what was approved last year, and you may recall, Chair Edwards, there was a question asked of me, would the lot be further severed? And at the time, I had indicated that I was involved with another island property up on Lake Rosso, and basically people there were certainly looking at purchasing very large properties to have extensive privacy. My understanding in this case is that the property did not sell and seemed to be difficult to sell at this large of a size. And Mr. Grand and Ms. Rondelet were advised that they're best to actually try and divide it in two and would make it more saleable. Maybe Member Quinn might know a little bit more about that than I do, but that was what was presented to me, and the lots do conform to the OP and the zoning bylaw. Next. So this is what we have now, and again, sizable lots, and I think I noted the sizes of these just a moment ago. Next. So this is the proposed severed lot. The boathouse on the left of this photo is actually on a neighboring lot, but that's close to the border. So this is most of the, this would be the frontage of the severed lot. Next. And this is moving further over. This is sort of the east portion of the severed lot. There's a sign on the right portion there that that's roughly the dividing line between the two lots. And I think that Kirsten had some excellent pictures that were in a little bit closer than this. Next. On land, this is a part of the severed lot. You can see it's a pretty thick shoreline vegetative buffer, and there's certainly lots of building sites. Next. And this is going to the east part of the severed lot. Again, it's fairly level, and there's definitely building sites on the property. Next. And this is actually on the retained lot. This would be sort of in the western portion. And again, you can see very thick tree cover. This is looking towards the lake from a potential building site on that property. So it is well treed. It is zone -7, so it is subject to site plan control. Next. So again, these properties meet the frontage requirements in the official plan, and they do for the zoning bylaw as well. Next. And as I mentioned, the -7 denotes a deer wintering habitat, so it is subject to site plan control, and there are numerous building sites. Next. And there'll be a letter regarding and confirming access, either from Walker's Point or for Lakeshore Marina. Next. So just in conclusion, the severed lots are large. They're compatible with lots in the area. Very little in terms of development constraints on either one of these lots. Next. And again, site plan control, and we will secure the appropriate water access. So, and we also recognize that there's an agreement required that's registered on title regarding water access. So that's my presentation. I'm hoping that it's fairly straightforward, but you never know, but I'm certainly here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Fawner. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Anyone speaking against it? In opposition? Okay. Are there questions from the members? No questions? Oh, yes, Member Green. Just a minute.
Apologies for being muted. I just wanted to ask a question regarding the water access. do we actually get this letter as a condition and it is viewed? Because I think there's a situation on another island on Lake Muskoka in front of the planning committee where there's a lot of different lots and there's concern about, the number of spaces often that islanders need. Like it's not just one space at a marina, maybe there's more, and same with parking for cars. So I just wanted to make sure that this letter is actually obtained, or these letters are actually obtained before the sales take place and the new owners take over.
Mr. Fonder, can you answer that?
Yes, it's my understanding that those letters do have to be submitted to the township to actually be able to obtain the severance.
Okay, because I think in the other case, it's actually a lease that's being required, but I'm not suggesting that's the case here, but I guess this is becoming a bigger issue.
And I'll let Mr. Sharp answer that. Just 1 second, I gotta mute this.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just direct committee's attention to the second condition of consent that we've put forward in our report and that will be included in the resolution in the case of an approval. It'll require that a consent agreement be entered into and registered on title, wherein the applicant will agree not to utilize public parking and docking facilities as the principal means of access to the lots. And it will require that it be demonstrated to our satisfaction that sufficient means of long-term mainland parking and docking access be provided. So I think with that condition in place, I think that we're satisfied to move forward with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. Does that satisfy your question?
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? I will read the resolution. Moved by Member Green, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 4521 ML Rondelet, providing the following conditions are fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deed of the separate lot and any required right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with a registered copy of the reference plan. 2, that a consent agreement with the township under section 5126 of the Planning Act be entered into wherein the applicant agrees not to utilize public parking and docking facilities as the principal means of access to the retained and separate lots, and which demonstrates sufficient secured means of long-term mainland parking and docking access. This agreement is to be registered on title. 3, that cash in lieu of parkland be dedicated to the township in the amount of 5% of the assessed value of the newly created vacant lot or the entire lands, whichever is less. 4, that prior consent application B 1520 ML be finalized prior to this application. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. The reasons?
Good plan.
Complies with all the bylaws. They're large building sites.
Okay. Thank you very much. And the next application is B 47 to 64, and that's Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard are consent applications B/47 to 77/21 ML in the name of Lake in Coronan. The Coronan property is located at 1400 Walker's Point Road, and the Lake property does not currently have a municipally assigned address. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted consent sketches starting on page 95 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. Severance applications B/47 to 77/21 ML have been made to grant right-of-ways over parts of an existing private road. The first set of applications B/47 to 64/21 ML, rights-of-ways are being granted over part of a private roadway known as 1090 Alderlud Road, located on the property currently owned by John Francis and Joanne Teresa Lake. Law one, this is lot number 1, and you can see the related consent sketch attached to the agenda. The rights of ways for these applications are in favor of the benefiting lots as outlined on the severance sketch starting on page 95 of the agenda package. A full list of the property owners for each benefiting lot can be found in the attached notice on page 86 of the agenda package. The second set of applications, B/65 to 77/21 ML, rights of ways are also to be granted over part of 1090 Arundel Lodge Road, located on property owned by Wayne Donald and Julie Anne Marie Cornyn. That's lot number 2, which is in the attached consent sketch, sorry. Rights of ways for these applications are to be granted in favor of the benefiting lots as outlined in the severance sketches starting on page 97 of the agenda package. A full list of the property owners for each benefiting lot can be found on the attached notice on page 86 of the agenda package. Generally, these applications will provide a right-of-way on title at the Land Registry Office. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 14 days in advance, and 4 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by the District Municipality of Muskoka Planning and Economic Development Department. The department has no objection and requests to be notified of committee's decision. That is done by Emily Crowder, District Planner. The second submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has no objections. The third submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The fourth submission is by Sandy Boss, Township Building Inspector, stating that there are no concerns in regard to the proposed right-of-ways and on-site sewage systems. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and have no objection. If committee is considering approval, staff recommend the following condition: that a registerable descriptions of the severed lots or right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer, along with a registered copy of the reference plan. Staff have no further comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And is there anyone else here to speak on this, either the agent or the applicant?
They're both here.
Okay, would they, you'd like to,
Applicants and-
okay, bring them in, please.
Good morning, Chair and Committee. My name is Wayne Kerhonen. I am the property owner at 1400 Walker's Point Road, Gravenhurst, Ontario, P1P1R2. And I believe the applicant is here also somewhere. I don't see him in the giant screen. I'll speak a little bit just really quickly, and then I'm here for questions. Myself and the Lake family are the owners of these 2 adjacent lots. The Lakes own a waterfront property behind us as well. And currently a Rundle Lodge Road runs through the properties on the south end of the lake property and then through the back of our lot. There's a number of them that currently have deeded right-of-ways on their titles, and there's a number of those properties that do not. So the intent of this application for my section is to add right-of-ways to the deeds that are missing them. There was a consideration to move the existing road, Rundle Lodge Road, on the bottom of the sketch on our property there. We came to an agreement with the landowners behind us and Larry in his application to say, listen, let's leave the existing Rundle Lodge Road that it crosses the corner, southeast corner of our lot. And said, let's leave the road where it is and let's just expand the right-of-way to cover the road to have less impact on the forest and the existing lands and whatnot. So my wife and I give consent to the portion of this application that is our lot, and I will acquiesce to Larry there. If you have any questions, I'll be here for your questions.
Thank you very much, sir. And the agent coming in?
Larry
Yeah. Sorry.
I think he doesn't realize he's muted.
Larry, you're
Okay, are we
muted.
there now? There we are.
Okay, that's good.
How are you? Good morning.
Good.
My name is Larry Stewart. Our mailing address is 4798 Rathkill Road, Mississauga, but we have our cottage here on 1090 Arundel Lodge Road, Unit 20. So our postal code in Toronto is, or in Mississauga, is L5V1H3. As Wayne kind of spelled it all out, the only thing I can add is I represent all the cottagers on 1090 Arundel Lodge Road who have property here. And to the purpose of this whole thing is to ensure that every property owner has legal access, registered access to their properties. Right now, through discovering stuff that we found, our old traveled road has gaps in it on the previous titles and restricting, which is restricting access for some people. A couple people have right-of-ways where there's no road. So this is what the purpose of this whole thing is, for us to try to ensure everybody on the road is protected legally and have it all registered properly. And also, if this is granted, we also intend on taking steps to remove any of these accesses that are not required. Okay, and if you have any questions, I can surely answer them.
Okay, thank you very much. I have to ask this. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
No.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
No.
Are there questions from the members? I'll read the resolution. Moved by Member Bosworth, second by Member Quinn. Be it resolved that consent be granted for application B 47 to 77 21 ML Lake and Huron, provided the following condition is fulfilled. 1, a registrable description deeds of the several lots right-of-ways be submitted to the Secretary Treasurer along with the registered copy of the reference plan. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And we need reasons.
Good planning, cleaning up a right of way.
Okay. That's good. Okay, so that's granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
And the next application is A44, and that is Mr. Soya, and that is Elder.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4421 in the name of Elder. The subject property is known municipally as 1805 Peninsula Road, unit number 241. I would direct committee's attention to submit a sketch of start package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant has requested a variance to provide relief from the maximum permitted boathouse length requirement. The maximum permitted boathouse length is 50 feet and a length of 58 feet is proposed. The existing boathouse was constructed in 1998 in accordance with a site-specific zoning bylaw, which permits the boathouse to extend 60 feet beyond the high water mark. The applicant would now like to redevelop the boathouse, which involves an increase in boathouse width. And the requested variance would enable the existing and the proposed portions of the boathouse to have a similar length, or in other words, for the new portion of the boathouse to extend the same distance from the high water mark as the existing portion. Notice of this public hearing was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act 11 days in advance, and 2 comments have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official, advising that there are no Ontario building code concerns. And the second submission is by Public Works technician Tim Sopko, also advising that the Public Works Department does not have any concerns. No public submissions have been received. I have a detailed planning report for committee's consideration. Staff have no concerns with the application and no conditions have been recommended. No further comments at this time, but I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sawyer. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The applicant's agent is in there.
Okay, and would you bring them in now, please?
Good morning, Chair Edwards. My name is Ian McLaren, 247 Sterling Road, Toronto, Ontario, M6R2B2. I am the architect and agent for Laurie and Richard Elder. And the report is quite extensive. I think the drawings show everything clearly there. I'd have two comments. One is there's the question about the existing water depths in those slips. There is a photo that I sent to Sam if you want to see that. So the nose of the existing slips, which benefited from the earlier variance, the water depth of the nose is about 2 to 2.5 feet, and at the back of the slips about 4.5 to 5 feet. So you can see it's sort of just manageable with that additional length. And secondly, I would say that the owners have contacted the neighbors, all the immediate neighbors, so the Manions and Shannons across the way, and Rudsons and the Cassidys to the north. So John Cassidy had a couple of questions for me. I responded to him, just showing him that the proposed addition was not adversely affecting his view out of Deer Bay there down the lake to the south, the long view to the south. And he responded that he thanked me and said that he has no objections to the application.
Okay, anything else?
Any questions? Yeah, so that photo is March, obviously at extreme, but what it does show is that so the nose of the slip is just about, so it's at the end of that first crib. So you can see at that time it's, you know, a couple of inches of water. So you add 2.5 feet to present water line, and that's what they get at the nose. And then at the back slip there, it adds about 2.5 feet. So this is the reason for extending it out further for shore, is just to get that usable water depth.
Okay, very good. Anything else, sir?
I think that's it.
Okay, I have to ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
Chair Edwards, I'm have some concerns about overall built form of the combination of the building and the on the boathouse. I don't object to the 60-foot length. There's a very good reason for having a 60-foot length, and they're allowed the boathouse as wide as they are. But I think when you add the sun deck cover on the cover of the second story, it really starts adding to the built form. And it's a concern. I just like other members' thoughts on that. We are, built form is throughout both the official plan and the bylaws, and it's something we need to consider in cases like this.
I'll ask Mr. Sawyer, other than the coming up to 58 feet in length, everything else conforms, does it not?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That is correct. All other aspects of the boathouse proposal do conform, and the variance just includes the extension of the newer third slip of the boathouse to match up with the existing.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions on this? Does Mr. Bosworth, does that answer your question on that we're just looking at the 58 feet?
Yeah, I understand that, but we're also looking at an addition of a sun deck over the, a roof over the sun deck on the second floor. Is that not correct?
Mr. Sawyer?
Sorry, wrong button there. So yes, there is a sun deck or a covered area proposed as part of the boathouse. However, because the boathouse does have, or the lot does have a frontage of over 400 feet, a covered area on the second story of the boathouse is in addition to the sleeping cabin on the second story as well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Member Green.
Yeah, am I muted?
No, you're okay.
Okay. My only comment is a concern really about the sort of red hatched area is that the boathouse slip is longer, and this is supposed to be a shallower area. And then there's a big deck behind it. And so the whole thing is larger because they're going backwards as well. Is that not true? So what I would say is, like, obviously they're entitled to a wider dock and 3 slips, but why do they need this additional space? It seems to be net new space, and I don't know whether it's necessary.
Mr. Sawyer, can you answer that?
Yeah, I can take a stab at that one. Yeah, I do agree that I mean, staff did realize that the boathouse was also increasing in size towards the shoreline. So the area between the existing boathouse and the shoreline is there is some extension there as well of the first story, and it is what it was. I mean, what staff have looked at here is also the size of the existing lot, the existing vegetation along the shoreline, which is quite extensive. It's a little bit more sparse in the area in front of the cottage than in other areas, but the lot itself is quite large, and we have over 400 feet of frontage, and the location of the boathouse is pretty much right in the center of that frontage. Mm-hmm. It's that's a consideration as well, because there is, from a staff perspective, there seem to be limited impacts on privacy or encroachments into anybody else's neighboring activity areas or anything of that nature. Don't know if that answers the question, but I'd be happy to provide.
Hopefully it does. Yeah. That Member Bosworth, do you have another comment?
Yeah, my only comment would be that they're adding almost 600 square feet of space in the back of the boathouse, as best as I can figure out, with a very large door into the maintenance area. And I think we all know that maybe not with this owner, but some other owner, becomes a living room on the basement floor or on the at the boathouse level, and we've got a lot of that going on in Muskoka. It's a large area for boat maintenance, frankly. Mm-hmm. And I question why you need such a large, probably rolling door, would be my guess.
2. I think there's 2.
And I mean, this is happening around the lakes. It's not outside the bylaws, so there's not a lot we can do about it. But it is a concern, and the building is now becoming really large. And I appreciate that it's a large lot, and so I'm not completely convinced I'll vote against it, but I can be swayed by the opinion of other members of the committee.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe the agent could answer that. Why do you need that large area in behind that?
So in developing the program, these guys do a lot of windsurfing, so they do have multiple sails that they're hanging, so they need space to do that. Right now, they're squeezing them in around the existing boathouse and trying to get them around the boats. So they off season down south, they're windsurfing also. So it really is a pursuit of theirs. So they want that space to bring sails in and out and to hang them. I would also mention the width, the second floor width. So that covered piece that's added on the second floor. So that's 178 square feet, whereas 250 square feet is allowed up there with this frontage. It's also so that overall width on the second floor will be about 43 feet, and at this width they'd be allowed 52 feet. So we're not maximizing the size in those spaces. And the existing second floor, the interior space is completely unchanged. It's remaining as is.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Green. Be it resolved that application A 4421 Elder to permit the construction of additions to an existing two-story boathouse and dock, including a second-story covered area, with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit an addition to an existing two-story boathouse to be 58 feet in length. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And reasons.
It matches an earlier decision by Committee of Adjustment.
Guess we could say it's minor in nature because the extension is only a couple of feet and there's a natural physical reason, i.e. that's shallow water for allowing it.
Okay,
And more architecturally appealing to the neighbor.
right. Okay, thank you very much. I think at this time we'll take a 10-minute comfort break. And we're back right in 10 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair and Committee.
And we'll welcome everyone back if you're ready. We're just waiting for some members, Member Green, Member Creaser, and Member Quinn. And Member Quinn and Member Green, are you there? There's Member Quinn. Just waiting for Member Green. Should be in momentarily. Member Green, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, great. Okay, so we can start again. And the next application is A45 Silverberg, and that is Mr. Soya.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4521 in the name of Silverberg. Subject property consists of an entire island on Lake Muskoka known as Norman Island. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted sketches starting on page 148 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant has requested a variance to provide relief from the minimum island size requirement. For a lot on an island to be recognized as a building lot, the island is required to have a size of 2 acres. In this case, Norman Island has a size of 0.8 acres or 35,200 square feet. If approval is granted, the variance would permit the construction of a 2-story boathouse on an undersized island. The applicant has also requested a variance to permit a covered area in the 2nd story of the proposed boathouse. In cases where a 650 square foot sleeping cabin exists, the zoning bylaw only permits an additional covered area on lots that have 400 feet or more of straight line frontage. In this case, approval of the requested variance would permit the boathouse to contain a 178 square foot covered area, in addition to the 650 square foot sleeping cabin on a lot with 391 feet of straight line frontage. Notice of this public hearing was circulated in accordance with the Planning Act 10 days in advance, and 2 comments have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official, advising that the existing sewage system is not able to support the 2-bedroom sleeping cabin in the proposed boathouse. Improvements to the current system or construction of a new system that complies with the Ontario Building Code and zoning bylaw will be required at the building permit stage to the satisfaction of the township. The second submission is by Public Works Technician Tim Sopko, advising that the Public Works Department does not have any concerns, and no public submissions have been received. I prepared a detailed planning report for committee's consideration, and if committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended several conditions. These conditions include the requirement for an agreement in accordance with the Planning Act in which the owner agrees to limit lot coverage to a maximum of 8.5%. This condition recognizes that a minor variance was approved in 2011 that permitted a similar boathouse proposal and included a requirement to limit lot coverage to 8.5%. Although the boathouse that was previously approved was never constructed, staff feel that the restriction to lot coverage is reasonable and should be carried forward if committee is considering approval. The second condition requires a site plan agreement to be entered into to ensure retention of existing vegetation on this undersized island. The third condition requires any structures that are not shown on the site plan and that result in lot coverage above 8.5% to be removed. In this case, a site visit revealed that the island contains an extra shed and a roofed wood rack, which may result in a coverage slightly over 8.5%. However, I would note that as an alternative, if the applicant's agent is able to provide additional details about these structures and committee is not concerned with their presence, this condition could be removed and the permitted coverage amount revised to include these structures. The final condition requires the removal of a yurt, which functions as a sleeping cabin. As the proposed boathouse contains a sleeping cabin and only one sleeping cabin is permitted on the property, this existing sleeping cabin should be removed. I have no further comments at this time, but I would be happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Soya. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The agent.
The agent, okay.
She said no.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, committee, for hearing this application today. I'm Stephanie Sharp, the planner for Murray Planning and Associates, located at 44A King William Street, Huntsville, P1H1G3. I'm here today acting on behalf of our client, Eric Silverberg, owner of the property locally known as Norman Island. As noted, the purpose of this application is to permit the construction of a two-story boathouse on an undersized island. It is also worth noting that the property in question was previously subject to a minor variance application to construct a two-story boathouse that was approved in 2011 but never constructed. This application is to recognize this two-story boathouse in a different location that is ultimately more desirable, as it's located outside of a narrow water body. The subject property has a total area of 0.8 acres and 391 feet of frontage on Lake Muskoka. The property is currently developed with a cottage, a shed, a yurt, and a dock. The subject land remains well vegetated and with mature trees and shrubs, which are to remain during construction of this boathouse and will provide as a buffer to the shoreline. There are no natural constraints identified on the subject lands. The subject property is designated in the Township Muskoka Lakes official plan as waterfront, where the proposed development is consistent with the uses permitted. The yurt on the property, which is currently being used as a sleeping cabin, will be removed to maintain conformity with the official plan and only having one sleeping cabin on the property. The proposed development will require minimal vegetation removal and the structure will not dominate over the natural features as there is significant frontage on the island. The subject property is split zone WR3 and WR3-R, where the proposed boathouse is to be located within the WR3 zone outside of that narrow water body section. As of right, the two-story boathouses are permitted on Category 1 lakes, and overall the proposed boathouse meets all setbacks provisions in the bylaw and has a significant amount of frontage. The permitted coverage on the island is 10%, where the proposed is 8.5%, significantly less than the permitted. And saying that, our firm is of the opinion and would request that committee consider maintaining that 10% rather than the 8.5% as it is permitted as of right on the island. With respect to the sheds that were identified on the property, the proposed lot coverage is overall 8.47%, where the permitted is 8.5%. The two sheds noted by staff will amount to 0.05%, where the total overall coverage would be 8.52%, within the realm of plus or minus that would round to 8.5%. In accordance with section 2.7 interpretation of numbers in the zoning bylaw. Where section 5.5 of the official plan specifically recognizes the character of Lake Muskoka, the proposed application is appropriate for the development of the property and in character with the surrounding development in the lakes. In summary, the planning merits in support of this application may be articulated as the following. The use of the property together with the buildings and structures located thereon permitted by both the district and the township official plan and zoning bylaw. An application was approved in 2011 on the basis that it satisfied the 4 tests of a minor variance, and the current application is only proposing to change the location of the boathouse and recognize a covered area that would otherwise be permitted if the property had additional 9 feet of frontage. The new proposed location to the west of the island was recommended by staff on the basis that is most suitable location on the property and more appropriately satisfies the policies in this regard. It is our firm's professional planning opinion that the application maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan, maintains the intent and purpose of the township zoning bylaw, and is appropriate for the development of the property and is minor in nature. As such, we respectfully request approval of the application, and I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. And is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
There is one person.
Okay, would you like to bring? Pardon?
Good morning. I'm Catherine Josephine Bamford. I own the property known as 1M32 on Lake Muskoka, Franklin Island. I just received the letter this past Friday afternoon, so I've had no time to submit a written or proposal or anything. I would like to introduce my grandson, Christopher Shankula, and he's going to speak on my behalf.
Okay, do we have your mailing address and postal code?
I just said it. Oh, would you like?
My mailing address, yes, 175 Maple Street, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1K4.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. We would like to speak. Is it okay if I share my screen? Am I able to do that? It seems like I'm currently disabled.
Yeah.
From doing
No, I
so.
don't think you can. Unfortunately.
Okay.
Oh, if you'd like to email it to us, we can maybe put it up for you, if you can do that right away.
Oh, sure. Yes. What would be the email? Would you be able to post that in the chat?
And that, can you forward that to them?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Planning at Muskoka Lakes.
Planning at Muskoka Lakes.ca.
Okay, just give me one moment to do that. Thank you. It's the 13th. Today is the 13th, remember that.
Sorry about that. I'm just going to attach it to the email and send it. It may. It is a rather large attachment, which may take a while to send. I can. Okay, it's currently sending. Apologies. Again, we did have very little notice in order to put these together and send them.
Sorry, the attachment is just currently uploading. It should be sent momentarily. It is at about 75%. Apologies. As I'm sure most of you know, Muskoka internet is not always very fast, especially when it comes to uploading documents. So about 80 or 90% now. Okay, there it should be arriving momentarily.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Have you been able to receive that planning at muskokalakes.ca?
Hasn't come in as yet. While we're waiting for that to come through, I'll ask Ms. Sharp a question. And that when you submit the drawings and that there was the wood shed and another shed not shown, why was that not shown?
It was just an oversight on our part. We weren't aware of the woodshed being there at the time of our first site visit. So, but we are happy to include that on in the site plan agreement. Most definitely, it wasn't intended to.
No, it's just that when you're doing drawings, I believe our planning department say show everything on the drawings.
Certainly, yeah, we are understanding of that, most definitely.
Okay, thank you.
Has the email been received?
No, not as yet.
No.
What is it, Alan? Like, what is it that you want to see?
What were you going to show us anyway?
We want to show you, basically give you an overview of this area of the lake and explain why we do not believe that that is the optimal location for the proposed boathouse. So I just made a few graphics showing satellite imagery and a few features of the lake that may have been overlooked. Would there be a way for the host to enable screen sharing so I can simply show it through that?
I don't believe there is.
Okay. So the email has not been received in terms that planning at muskokalakes.ca?
No.
Okay.
While waiting, maybe you could state your concerns.
Sure, yeah. So, well, I can proceed without the graphic for now. So the original proposed, first of all, we want to just state that we're not in opposition to the boathouse itself being built.
Exactly.
When the original proposal was made, we knew the owners on the island very well, and we were in full agreement with a boathouse being built in the original location, which is the location of the docks currently, which and the docks have been there for many years. So this is at the eastern end of the island. which I do not believe are they currently shown on the new dock is shown, the new dock proposed on the northeastern tip of the island is shown. The existing docks are not shown there, which was interesting to us in terms of when we're just mentioning oversights that was just being mentioned. The original docks are not there, including the boat lifts, which are there to lift the boats out of the water, which were only recently introduced as well. Of course, we're not concerned about that at all. In terms of when I read through the proposal from the engineering company, it seemed to mention that the other side of the island, so the eastern side of the island where the current proposed boathouse, or approved, I should say, boathouse location is, it mentioned something about that being in a channel. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means because there is no channel there. It is quite a bit further over towards Wolf Island. Unfortunately, because of the technical difficulties, I cannot show you visually. However, the channel is quite a ways over from the island and is not anywhere near the proposed or the approved location of the boathouse. In terms of the proposed location of the boathouse, this would not only be directly in our sightlines in terms of both sightlines, noise pollution, light pollution increase, but it is also actually in a channel that is widely used because of the parking lot that is directly across from both Norman Island and Franklin Island. There are several boat slips there, and there is actually a large parking lot as well. And there is actually a rock that is in the middle of the channel between Franklin Island and Norman Island. And the only way for boat traffic to proceed through there would be to go right past the exact location of the proposed boathouse. So for this reason, the argument that you're taking it from one side of the island to this side and it's not going to be in a channel simply doesn't make any sense, given that boats have to actually proceed. If you were to split the distance between Franklin Island and Norman Island in 3, they have to basically proceed on the third closest to Norman Island in order to not hit rocks. It is an unmarked channel because the government decided to remove the markers, but it is widely used by many boats. Trust us, our docks receive a lot of wake there. So the boathouse would also receive much wake.
Yes.
We also have a concern in terms of the boathouse, the way that it faces. So the actual boathouse jets out from the island, but then the boathouse doors face directly towards our island. And as you can see from the map, which actually, unfortunately, we're not really sure why, but in terms of our island was actually blocked by the Norman Island label. But if you look at the island, you can just barely see it behind the Norman Island label on the key map that was provided.
That's Franklin Island.
That is our island, Franklin Island. So it is actually facing directly towards our island. And we are the closest island. There is no other island that is close. And if it's on the other side, the mainland is also very far. So this idea that they would reduce the sightlines of the mainland is simply, it doesn't make any sense because they are very far compared to our property. One more thing I wanted to mention, just in terms of, this is honestly just for the owner to be aware of. If you just take a look at all the trees on all the islands around this area, you can notice that they're leaning one way. They're all leaning towards the east from the west, and that is because of the westerly winds that often come through. And the ice flows. I had included in my diagram a picture of actually satellite imagery showing an ice flow actually hitting our side of the island. Now, if you look at all the small islands around here, nobody builds boathouses on this side of the island, and there's a good reason for that. All that out towards Acton Island, there is a good chunk of lake, and with those westerly winds in the spring, when the winter ice is breaking up, those ice flows put immense forces on these sides of the island. So that is just in terms of the owner may reconsider putting their boathouse on this side of the island simply because of those ice flows. Traditionally, no one has decided to build it there, and that is for good reason.
Yes.
In terms of that, I think that is everything. One little oversight I noticed was in the proposal, it said 250 square foot living area. Just now verbally, it was 178. So I'm not sure, there's another kind of inconsistency there. So yes, so once again, we're not opposing the building of a boathouse on the island. We are opposing the variance to move the boathouse. Somehow you're hand waving, saying that this is a more optimal location, but haven't really given any concrete arguments. And I think we've given a lot of concrete arguments for why, in fact, it is not an optimal location. So we propose that the variance to build the boathouse, we're not opposed to that, but we are opposed to the variance to move the boathouse from the original approved location back in 2011. I think that's everything from us. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much.
Were you able to receive the email? Has it come through yet? Or no?
Still haven't got the email, have we? No, it still hasn't come through for some reason.
Okay, what I'll do is I'll resend that for your consideration later. In this process.
Okay.
Yeah, so apologies for that, but hopefully I've been able to lay everything out in a pretty concrete way. Are there any questions about what I have said?
Well, I'm going to give it back to the agent to see if they would like to comment on that.
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair. The last question at the end there was about the size of the sleeping cabin. It is, as it says in the report, when Sam refers to the 178 square feet, he's referring to the covered portion in addition to the sleeping cabin on the second story. Secondly, when it comes to the narrow water body, the purpose for it being placed on the other side of the island is because narrow water body is defined in the bylaw as being a certain distance between shorelines. So in order to avoid this section on the easterly portion of Norman Island is the portion closest to the mainland. So that is the reason in discussion with staff as to why it was placed on the westerly side of the island. It was just a suggestion by staff, as well as discussions with ourselves and the property owner that it would be more ideal on the westerly side.
May I comment on that? Is that okay?
No, actually, it's in discussion now, and they did a last shot. But I'm just looking at page 48, and I don't see where the original boathouse was, but it was on that side where the new dock is, in around there. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
So you've got a bridge across that island, so no boats can get through there anyway.
Exactly. There is no, that is
No
not
boat
a
traffic.
channel. There's no boat traffic through that narrow area. It is not a channel.
It never has
It
been.
never has been. The bridge has been there for
Forever.
decades.
Yeah, I'm aware of it. And that, Mr. Sawyer, would you like to comment on that? Because like I say, you couldn't get a boat through there anyway with that bridge there.
It is about
It's
maybe
shallow.
2 feet of
Just
water
short
and there
story.
are several, there's several rocks through there as well.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the location of the boathouse, so it is my understanding as well that the proposed location at the time of the previous minor variance approval in 2011 was at the northwest. The westerly tip of the island, but coming around to the eastern side of it. And I do believe that the area that's zoned as restrictive, that previous location that is outside of that restrictive area, and it's zoned restrictive because of the narrow water body. So I do believe that the previous location was not identified as being located directly within the narrow water body portion of the island. So it is, the way that staff have looked at this is that the other side of the island does face an open area of the lake where it's more open and there is less of a impact from properties that are in greater proximity, as would be the previous location. So that has been the way that that staff have looked at that it is a fairly wide open area, and to both sides there are limited neighbors, except for here, as the neighbor has pointed out, there is the island, their island, that I believe is the closest other residentially developed lot in proximity. So, I mean, it is a bit subjective to say which location is preferable, and I'm not sure if the applicant's agent has more to add on behalf of the applicant, but obviously it is important to understand the neighbors' concerns as well. Thank you.
I wonder, could we put a aerial map up of that, Mr. Sharp, of that area from the district? Because I know, if I'm thinking the right way, there is quite a shoal in through that, as it was pointed out.
Chair Edwards, there is a picture on page 160 of the report. It's a very good one.
Okay.
Would you be able to please put that up on the screen? The page 160. Were the pages mailed to us numbered in terms of the
They're not
report's
numbered.
numbers? I don't believe
Nope.
so.
There are no numbers. Nothing.
So if you would please
What
put
is
that up
page
so we
2?
can refer to it. Thank you.
Just trying to figure this out now. Just one moment.
Yeah, I think we can get a better one than that.
Oh. Yeah, sorry, Alan, that's all we can provide at this moment.
Well,
okay.
There's nothing.
I'll just point your attention
Sorry,
to the rock.
Sorry, just mute that one, please. I would like to see the overall, because I know the area. I've been through there. There is a shoal that does run there, and I'd like to just see, because I don't want to put something in there that boats can't get around either.
Okay, just one moment.
Thank you.
Chair, just a quick question, if I can, for clarification. When we're talking about this island, are we talking about it being it faces northwest, southeast, and we're referring to the west side and the east side? So I presume the west, we are treating the island as if it was a north-south island. Is that fair to say?
I would say from the conversation, they're just about that way.
Yeah,
it would be the sort of the southwest side of the island, and I think the other was on the northeast, the original.
Fair enough.
I believe.
Could somebody just point with a little red marker or something, the previous location versus the new location on that aerial map? This all talk of northwest, I'm a little confused.
I'll ask Mr. Soya, do we have where the other location was anywhere in there?
I'm just getting something up on the screen, which I think might be more helpful.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sharp.
Sure. My computer's being really slow for some reason.
We're just waiting for screen sharing of a map.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if I may, while we're waiting for that, I might be
Yeah.
able to clarify the location of the previous boathouse.
Okay, that's good.
If looking at the site plan that's in the agenda package,
What
after
page are we, 147, is it?
I had down, yeah, I think it was 148.
Okay.
So that site plan shows, oh no, I've lost the site plan. Oh, there it is. Shows at the top of how the island's shown in this on the site plan, shows a new dock, 12 feet by 35
That's
feet.
right. Yeah.
It's in that location that currently there's docks that currently exist there. They're in a different configuration. And that's also the location where the previous boathouse was proposed. It's my understanding that the boathouse was approved through a minor variance, as part of a minor variance in 2011. And instead of the boathouse being built, some new docks were built there. But that is the location at the top end of that island. And it is important to notice that this island is oriented differently than that north is not straight up on this site plan. But on the site plan, it does show in the legend that the top of the island in actuality should be rotated a little bit more to the west.
Okay.
And then the site plan also shows the footbridge as referenced there, and at the to the right of the site plan, so the east, you can see there's a line drawn in there that shows the mainland. So I think that should be able to provide some clarification about where the boathouse was previously approved.
Okay.
Sorry, Alan, my computer is.
Not, okay. Are there any questions from the members while we're trying to get something up on the screen? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
So I am looking at the map on the aerial photograph, which I think is taken from the district map because it's marked 2018. And, you know, I must say that the owners of Franklin Island have made a very interesting point. You can see there very clearly the boat parking facilities on the land behind to, I guess, would be the southeast of the walkway. And if the boathouse was put around where that little dock is on, let's call that the northeast corner of the island, right. It would, it looks like they would only have one neighbor that would see it. And their docking facility is around the point. And it looks like from that picture, anyway, it looks like the water's deep enough. It does seem to me to be a preferred site. But, you know, we have to be sensitive to what the owner would like too.
Okay, yeah.
If you're on an island, you've got to worry about ice, and that would certainly be a lot better place.
Yeah. Okay, now I think we can screen share now. Just a second.
For you, Chair Edwards, I do have a aerial photo showing the subject property and the surrounding lands that I'll screen share. So just to further explain what Mr. Soya was mentioning, this is the subject property, Norman Island. The originally proposed boathouse envelope was located somewhere in proximity here, and the proposed boathouse is proposed in this area here. This is Island Franklin. This is the boardwalk that connects the subject property to the mainland. And this is, again, just an aerial photo from our digital mapping showing wider expanse than what was previously indicated in the documents available in your agenda package.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. It doesn't show the sort of a reef in there, because I know when you're boating through there, you sort of hug to the one side. If memory serves me correct. I think at one time there may have even been markers in there.
There were.
There were markers. You have to stay very close to Norman to avoid that shore. That.
Yes, Mr. Soya.
I do believe that I have now been given the ability to screen share. So I'm going to, I know that Mr. Sharp was having some difficulties, so I can try to do that and share the web mapping, which shows a bit better view, I believe. So I'm just trying to make that work. And maybe I spoke too soon because it's not working for me. Well, no, I am not able to screen share. But Chair Edwards, are you referring to a shoal off that point of land where the old boathouse or the previous boathouse?
If I could see the whole area in that, there is because there used to be, in my memory, and it's been years, but there used to be channel markers up through there that moved you over towards those islands, I believe.
Well, I am not able to screen share, but
okay.
I mean, I do see a shoal in between the subject island and the other island further to the northwest. I believe that if you were rounding the island, the subject island to
you would have to swing around
approach the marina, that you would likely not be coming very close to the subject land. That shoal would push you further out towards the island further to the northwest.
Yeah, that's right. But I think from that island, if you just come out from where you got the star on page 160 and come out towards the bottom of the screen on an angle, I believe there is used to be a marked shoal in there. It was quite long. If I've got the right area, that's why I wanted to see it. Sorry, sir. It's to deliberation now.
So I'm not sure what else we are able to provide at this time, unless someone else is able to share an aerial photograph of the
okay. No, that's
island
fine.
area.
Are there any other questions or comments from the members? Yes, Member Creaser.
Well, I'm confused in a lot of ways about this. I mean, I think the applicant would be well placed to listen to their neighbor talking about ice flows. And This is not a good resilience place. I mean, we have to, as designers now, consider the resilience of things like ice moving. So I don't really like where it's placed according to what the neighbor says. I mean, at minimum, it should be turned so that the door is turned away from his island, but there's a shoal that's pretty obviously there from Franklin through to this island, the island in question, and it continues all the way over. And there's a large shoal pretty much in the aerial. You can see the dark spots. I mean, I think the older location was the better location. I would recommend that we defer and everybody tries to figure out.
Yeah, okay, I think Mr. Sharp has something he can show us. Just a minute, I'm gonna have to mute myself and turn the sound down and. Can you move towards the left-hand side of the screen, because I think it shows in there.
Sure, it does appear that there's a shoal off the northwesterly.
It's off the island, like straight, like you think where that boathouse scenery marker is.
Yeah.
Come down to the, in there.
Okay, I'll just have to stop share for a second.
That's the same map as on page 160.
So what was that, Mr. Boston?
So that shows a wider expanse, Chair Edwards.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, yes, Member Quinn.
I've looked at my Navionics. I've had my chart out. I don't see a rock to the one side of the island. I see it to the northwest.
Okay.
I think that maybe the owner, if he goes to the old site, he's looking at the marina, the airplanes, and he's looking at the landing. And if I was that owner, I'd be taking my calculated risk on an ice flow, and that's up to me and my insurance. I don't have a problem with what Mr. Soya's recommending. And I think that if we took that 8.5 to 8.6%, he could keep his wood sheds. I think everything there is neat. They're earth tone colors. And I think that he's been a pretty good steward to the environment.
Yes, Member Green. You're muted.
Sorry, I feel differently to Member Quinn. I think that when you get a variance, you have the permission of your neighbors at the time. And when you go to revise that variance, if you do not have neighbor permission on the revision, tough luck, because when people agree to things, they agree to it in a specific spot and on certain terms. And this is now, in my mind, a completely new ball of wax. Definitely the yurt has to go, because a boathouse is another habitable area. But generally this boathouse location, it really does require, in my opinion, the approval of the neighbor most affected. And in this case, I think we've heard the opinion, and I just would not approve this.
Any other comments from any other members at this time? Yes, Mr. Bosworth.
I'd like to hear from the applicant about their disposition about relocating it. They may have some very specific reasons why they want it where it is, and I'd like to hear them.
Well, that's true. Or if the applicant would like a deferral to look it over, we can consider that too. But I'll ask that, Ms. Sharp.
Certainly. So we would be open to deferral. So we can discuss with the property owner some of the neighbors' concerns. I'm sure they would, of course, take into account the concerns that have been voiced today. But we would like to respectfully remind committee that the 4 tests for minor variance are the basis of a decision. And those are to be upheld when making a decision. So, but of course, we would be open to deferral and getting a better idea from the property owner, their stance on the concerns that were mentioned today.
Okay, yes, Mr. Quinn.
Yes, I'm for deferring, but also part of your presentation, when you came to us, you talked about keeping the 10% coverage because they had that as a right. Well, it's undersized, and that's why you're having to come to us for a variance. So I'm going to be supporting the township's 8.5 or 8.6%. And you can go defer, but when you come back, you can ask for that, but I won't be supporting it at a full 10%.
I think you're right on that, because the other committee back in 2011, that was a condition at that time. And 8.5 is actually better than nothing. It is definitely an undersized lot. It should be 2 acres for a building lot. So I don't think I would not support anything other than that. And that member Bosworth, you had a comment?
I was just going to agree with Mr. Member Quinn. Definitely not anything more than 8.5. This is 0.8 of an acre when you're supposed to have 2 acres. It's frankly a little surprising they were allowed to build such a large or get approval for such a large boathouse the first time around. I think if things get pushed a little too far, the 0.8 acres will start coming up in my mind as a concern as well.
Okay, I'm getting the feeling that this is going to be deferred. That way, the people that are actually objecting to it can send all their charts and that in as well. Maybe the agent could reach out to them and talk to them. So we'll defer this at this time, and you can bring it back as soon as you're ready next month or that. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And next one is A46, and that's Ms. Darling. Oh. Sorry, I can't. Okay, go ahead. And that, Ms. Darling? I'm not getting any sound. I don't know if anybody else is. No?
No.
Still can't get it. No, we still can't hear you. Still can't hear you.
Alan, if you'd like, I can take a shot at reading the notice if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do it that way. Sorry about that. You know, they should change the name of Zoom to Snail. Okay, go ahead. I guess just a minute. I'll have to turn me down here and.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. We're experiencing some technical difficulties here, so I appreciate your patience. The next application to be heard is in the name of Kirschenbaum, and the civic address for the subject property is 1121 Trillium Road. The purpose and effect of the application is as follows. The subject property is zoned waterfront residential WR6-7 and is located on a category lake. Apologies, category 1 lake being Lake Muskoka. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story dwelling addition. Relief is requested from section 4.1.3 of Bylaw 2014-14 as amended, being the maximum permitted height of 35 feet for a dwelling. The proposed 2-story dwelling addition is to be 39 feet in height, and the variance requested is 4 feet. Notice of this public meeting under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance. And I'm just going to see how many submissions we've received here. One moment. We've received 2 comments. The first comment is by the township's chief building official, and it indicates that the Development Services Division has no objection to the application. The next comment is by the township's Public Works Department, and it is the same. It indicates that the Public Works Department has no objection. Those are all my comments. For the time being, I'd be happy to assist committee with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. Sorry, we have to put the sound off and everything else that we're speaking in this room. So is the agent or the applicant here? I believe we have an agent here.
The applicant.
Oh, the applicant, okay.
The agent was here, but he seems to have left.
We're just waiting for the applicant to come online.
He's in here and asking to He's here, Alan. He's just not unmuting himself.
Okay, could you unmute yourself there, the applicant, please? If you could unmute yourself, that would be great.
His name is Howard.
Sorry,
Howard.
Howard?
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, Howard, yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you very much for hearing me. I thought the agent would appear, and just to expedite things, by your leave, I'll speak to you about it very briefly.
Okay.
This addition, it's essentially for children. Everybody goes through this. The height variance is very minor. It's only because there's a little bit of drop in the land at that side. It's to make it equal with the rest of the roof line and the rest of the cottage. It cannot be seen from the lake at all. We were asked to, if you were to see pictures from the lake, you'd see nothing but trees. So it's very minor and has no effect on anything that I'm aware of. We have heard from one neighbor. Do you remember the name of the neighbor?
Yes, and he said he thought it looked like a very nice addition and had no problem with
So,
it whatsoever.
so we've had no objections. I'm a solicitor, so I can give you my word on that. There have been no objections that we're aware of, and I can't conceive of any practical effect it would have. We're very careful about making sure everything looks fine and not to overload everything. And it, as I said, it's just the lay of the land and cannot be seen. So subject to any questions, those are all the things I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
The agent has just joined.
Oh, the agent, okay. You bring the agent in. Is the agent there? Is that Miss Ledger?
It's Jim. He's in there.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello.
Sorry, I don't know if the agent has stepped in, but I'm representing Diane on this, Kirschenbaum,
Okay.
Mazenga Building Group, Jim Broman. So
Your address and postal code?
our office is located at 3859 Highway 118 West, Port Carling, POB 1J0.
Okay.
The intent of having this height variance is to reduce the impact of the landscape and footprint of the build. If we had to bring the grade up that 4 feet in front of the building, we'd be impacting more of the forest around it. I think it's a very fair ask, and there's no complaints from neighbors, family, or on either side. It's I think a fairly straightforward ask here.
Okay. That everything?
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in support of this application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application? No. Then we'll take questions from the members. Any questions? Then I'll read the resolution. Moved by member Quinn, second by member Green, and be it resolved that application A 4621 Kirschenbaum to permit the construction of a two-story dwelling addition with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a two-story dwelling addition to be 39 feet in height. This variance is granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? That is carried. And the reasons?
Minor in nature.
No neighbor complaints.
No. Okay, thank you.
Thank you,
And,
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members.
okay, you're welcome and thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
And the next application is A47, and that is Ms. Darling. Let's hope we can get her on. This is a night application.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4721 in the name of Knight and Emtage. The subject property is known municipally as 1775 Brackenridge Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on 215 to 221 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a second-story addition to a dwelling to recognize an existing sun deck and to demolish an existing shed. Relief is requested from the minimum lot frontage and lot area to be a building lot. The property has 10,440 square feet, where 15,000 is required to be a building lot. Variance requested will permit a dwelling addition on an undersized lot. Relief is requested from the minimum front yard setback. The existing dwelling is set back less than 66 feet. The minimum front yard setback is the existing or 50 feet, whichever is greater. The minimum front yard setback is 50 feet, and the proposed second-story dwelling is to be 26.6 feet. Variance requested is 23.6 feet. Relief is also requested from the minimum front yard setback of 50 feet and a minimum interior side yard setback of 15 feet. The as-built sun deck was constructed 5.2 feet from the high water mark and 0.9 feet from the interior side lot line. Variances requested are 44.8 feet and 41.1 feet respectively. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance, and 2 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Services Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. And the second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and the Public Works Department has no objections. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration and recommend that it's adjourned until an updated site plan be submitted identifying the removal of the sleeping cabin, gazebo, and sun deck associated with the dwelling, saving for and except a 6-foot wide portion of the front and sides of the sun deck. Staff have no further comments at this time and are happy to answer any questions from committee.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Darling. I just noticed on page 199, where you have the site, I believe it's on the other side of the road.
So there is a waterfront lot and a back lot, but there's no bylaw that deems them as one.
Okay.
So it's very small. It's a very small.
Small lot, and it's on the other side of the road, is just so that everybody is aware of it.
It's on the waterfront side.
That's right. That's what I thought. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
They're both here and they're both in.
Okay, although we will be deferring it, we'll hear everyone else out.
Is it okay to speak? Sorry.
Yeah, what application do you want?
This is for night.
We've already approved it. You're too late.
No, this is the one they've just introduced.
Just a minute now. Maybe I'm wrong then. It's been a long morning. Okay, go ahead then. Sorry.
Terry Ledger, 167 Medora Street, Fort Carling, P0B1J0. Agent for the applicant. I see Mr. Knight is also here. So I was a little surprised by the report, but I'll just sort of summarize what we're doing. There is a lot on the other side of Brackenridge Road, and over time Brackenridge Road has widened itself and overtaken some of the lot area. which you can sort of see in a dashed line on the survey. So this, I think anyone who's been down Brackenridge Road is aware of this property. It's easily seen. It hasn't changed in probably, well, as long as I can remember. So what we want to do is just add some bedrooms, and that would be over top of the existing cottage, so less than 1,000 square feet. And doing so, we realized that the lot coverage was well over what's allowed, and it is now a very small lot. So I had suggested removing one of the sheds, which Mr. Knight was amicable towards. So we've added that in. And I think as far as the natural environment dominating, I think if you look at the figures, the pictures provided in the report, figure 1 is a good one. It shows it looking from the dock area, and you can see that it's actually quite well treed, and where the second story is going on the cottage should only be about 5 feet higher than the existing ridge of the cottage now. There's a large cedar trees in front. It actually goes through the deck and in front of the cottage, which will remain. And if you look to figure 3, that shows from the road side, also well buffered by a large group of cedar trees. And then figure 4 shows the front yard. There are very mature trees in the front, which doesn't buffer maybe the buildings in front as much as it could be. And so I had suggested at the time that you may require some plantings in the front yard. But I see in the report 20 trees, which seems a little aggressive, as are removing all the outbuildings. So it just seems a little heavy on what's requested by the township, given that these buildings have been there for a very long time. So I do believe that what we want to do is the least amount of impact on the property by just going up, and we're certainly not trying to maximize the height, just under 26 feet. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have, as is the owner.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lizer. Is there anyone else here who wishes to speak in support of this application? No? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this application?
Somebody has just raised their hand.
Pardon?
Somebody's raised their hand, I'll bring them in.
Okay. Are there questions from the members? Yes, Mr. Quinn.
I would like to know the difference between the existing roof line and the potential new one. I really think that architecturally, more bedrooms, a 1.5-story building would look a lot better, have less impact than a 2-story.
And Member Bottomsworth, you wanted to comment or had a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I guess this property has a long history. Our bylaw requires natural vegetation across the front. This clearly has lawn right down to the shoreline. So I agree with that. I'll leave it up to the township to determine what needs to be done, but the law does not allow lawn right to the shoreline. I think you can easily put a 1.5-story building in behind those trees, as long as the trees aren't going to be removed. And I think removing some of the buildings to help reduce the coverage on this very small lot is a good idea. So overall, I'm in favor with it, but we need to improve the visual from the shorelines with some plantings.
Now, staff have asked for a deferral on this. What's the committee think on that? Yes.
It seems to me the deferral is somewhat technical in nature, in that we don't have the documentation properly laid out, and So let me just ask for whether that's my thinking is correct or not.
Alan,
Yes,
somebody who wanted to speak.
okay, bring them in.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, sorry, sir. And that there was a little mix up. We're having some technical difficulties here today. Would you like to speak? Just turn your mic on.
My name is Don Knight, 70.
Okay?
Mike. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now, sir. Your name and address, and then we're all set.
Okay. Yes, my name is Don Knight, 1775 Brackenridge Road, Utterson, POB 1MO. Yeah, I just wanted to give a little history on the family. Both my grandfather and his brother homesteaded on Brackenridge Center Road. We have a lot of history here. I've been coming up here all my life, and when it was time to retire, this is where I wanted to come back to. The cottage is small right now, and we have a growing family with grandkids and things, and that's basically the reason for this amendment. We want to the cottage size. Well, I understand that there are some other things that we will have to do as far as new hybrid septic system, and we're willing to comply with anything that is required in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, I had asked the committee what your thoughts are on the staff asking for a deferral. I think we can get this cleared up with them and that, but I'm just asking you.
I agree that we need a deferral. Let's clean it up.
Yeah, I think so. I think it might be cleaner coming back that way. Anyone else?
I agree.
Okay. Okay. And Member Green, the same?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. I think at this time we'll defer this then. Yes. Oh, just a minute. There we go again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. If I could just maybe get some direction. We've put forward specific reasons for the adjournment regarding the removal of certain building and structures. Is it that committee agrees specifically with that recommendation, or were you looking for something else or not as much? But it'd be helpful, I think, just for my purposes and the purposes of my staff to understand what specifically committee wants when it returns. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, committee, what would you like? Yes, Member Bollingsworth.
I'm happy with the staff recommendation.
Yeah. Okay. Member Quinn?
I'd like to know the difference between the two building heights.
Yeah, okay. Yes, Ms. Leisure, I'll let you speak.
Yes, just to address Member Quinn, it's approximately 6 to 7 feet.
Higher, okay, thank you. Yes, Member Bosworth.
Yeah, I think it already includes the requirements for plantings. I think there was a mention of.
Yes, it does.
So thank you.
Okay. So on that note, we'll defer this and then we'll hopefully come back and have it all sorted out. Where are we here? And we're at A48, and that's Ms. Darling again.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A4821 in the name of Garcia. The subject property is known municipally as 1004 Kitchener Street. I would like to direct committee's attention to the submitted site plans on page 235 to 244 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing dwelling, a portion of dock, and a one-story boathouse, and construct a new two-story dwelling with an associated sun deck and stairs and a one-story boathouse. Relief is requested from the side yard setback of 15 feet. The proposed dwelling will be 13.5 feet from the southerly lot line and 5 feet from the northerly lot line. Variances requested are 1.5 and 10 feet respectively. Relief is also requested from the side yard setback of 15 feet. The proposed sun deck and stairs will be 12.9 feet from the northerly side lot line. Variance requested is 2.1 feet. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 10 days in advance, and 3 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the township's chief building official. The Development Service Department has no Ontario Building Code objections. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the township's public works technician, and they have no objections. The third submission is by Frances Martin de Giuseppe, who is an adjacent neighbor, and she would like me to read her letter. Good day. Thank you for the opportunity to address the committee with regards to this application. We are the neighboring property owners to the north of the subject property at 1010 Kitchener Street. We also own the properties directly opposite the Garcia's property, a recently constructed home at 1011 Kitchener Street, an adjacent wooded property that fronts the west side of Kitchener Street and extends around the corner to the driveway limits of 1053 Gordon Street. We only received notice of this application in the mail on September 8th. We will try to be in attendance, but however, with such short notice, we may not be able to attend. And we have spoken to Kristen, the planner on the file, and asked that she read our comments should we not be in attendance. We are in support of the Garcia's desire to build, to build a new cottage, and based on the intention to build on the existing footprint, have no substantial objections. We note that the new build, as per the enclosed site plan, will be built at 5 feet 3 inches from our property line at 1010 Kitchener Street on the northwest corner and 7 feet and 8 inches at the northeast corner. We trust it is not the intent of the proposed variance to allow a 5-foot setback along the entire northern boundary, but to maintain the existing setbacks. We believe the proposed development is in keeping with the neighborhood, given the substantial change from a 1 and 1-story dwelling to a 2-story dwelling, and the fact that the side yard setback will be reduced from the allowable. We are pleased to note that the Garcias have been sensitive to our continued enjoyment of our property and have not incorporated windows of principal rooms or any large windows in the second floor rooms facing our property, thus reducing overlook. While our property is heavily treed, which assists in maintaining a measure of privacy, most of the trees located in that area are deciduous and bare of foliage through many months of the year. While we reiterate our support of the application in principle, we would like to draw the attention to the aspect of the new cottage that does give us some concern. There are large 2-foot roof overhangs shown on the drawings. Assuming the eaves are an allowable encroachment, the 5-foot becomes the new setback, and the overhang will pull the limits of the boundary to 3 feet to our property. That, coupled with a large proposed side gable facing our property, we are somewhat concerned with the increased overall mass and for the preservation and protection of the trees on our adjacent property during construction. As the existing cottage setbacks may be used to justify granting reduced setbacks for the new build, it is important that we be able to consider the full impact. A review of the plan seems to suggest that this gable is likely more decorative than of intrinsic value. We wonder if the Garcias would consider a shed dormer above the second floor side wall windows rather than a large gable. Shed dormers are classic to Muskoka architecture and would not only reduce a lot of the bulk of the new second story so close to the lot line, but it would be quite attractive and less expensive to build. Thank you for your consideration. And then she emailed me again this morning to just add, please note that we are not trying to insist that the Garcias replace the large gable that faces our property. We understand that they might prefer the look of the gable over a shed dormer. We just suggest that it might give more room for the mature trees close to the lot line. Staff have prepared a detailed report for the committee's consideration and have no objections. I would just like to note that in the notice that north and south lot lines were flipped, and so they have been corrected and are reflected in the motion. I'm here to answer.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Darling. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
The agent is here, but I've tried to bring her in and she's not accepting.
Okay, we're trying to bring the agent in, and that if you're there and you can hear us, if you could turn your mic on, that would be great. And that's Mr. Roy on. Hello? Is the agent or the applicant here wish to speak on this? That's the Garcia application. We're waiting on you. Still not coming in?
There is someone who wishes to speak.
Okay, would you want to bring them in?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
Is there anyone out there that wishes to speak on the Garcia application? Please come in now.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Hi, apologies. We could not figure out how to join conversation.
Okay, I need your name and address and postal code, please.
My name is Bettine Roynan with Lishkoff Build Design. What address should we give?
The office address.
1004. Sorry, no, that's not our address. 7335 Kennedy Road, Brampton, Ontario.
And the postal code?
We're just looking that up. Don't know it off by heart. New office.
Okay.
L6W 0B9.
Okay, thank you.
So as I understand, the neighbor would like us to consider changing the design so that we put a shed dormer. Can I clarify, is that on the south or the north elevation?
That would be the one closest to the property line, obviously, but and that.
All right, so it would be the north elevation, this one here, shed dormer. We can certainly discuss that with our client and see if they're open to changing that. Is it because the roof as it exists, the overhang protrudes too closely to their property? Was that my understanding of their?
I believe that is correct. I think it becomes within 3 feet then.
Yeah.
I heard it correct.
I think possibly that could just be altered so that we don't have that extra roof there and we just have a gable end, which I don't believe would be an issue, but I would have to just clear that with our client, obviously, as it's a design change. I didn't know that we were going to be discussing that. I thought we were going to be discussing the setbacks in terms of building within the existing footprint. So. What would be the next step from here?
You're asking me or you're asking somebody at your office?
Well, hi, we assumed this hearing is about the setbacks, so the letter that you received, we are not aware of that letter. But in terms of the dormer roof, we will definitely change the design. That's not a problem.
Okay.
If there's no other concerns, I don't think that'll be a problem.
Okay, should we note that on the decision, Mr. Sharp? Okay, just a second. I've got to mute and then go
Okay.
off.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I think what can be done in this instance is I think the easiest way to approach it would likely be to just have an amended elevation drawing, perhaps attached to the notice of decision, and we can note it in the minutes that the applicant's agent was in agreement to making that adjustment, and then we'll attach the elevation drawing to the notice of decision. No other changes, I don't think, would be required at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so we can do it that way for you. It's just a case so that even for and that for painting or anything else like that, if you're getting, you know, almost over the lot line and you get a ladder and that in there, so their
Right.
concerns are there. So if you can do something, that would definitely be appreciated. Are there any
Okay.
questions from the committee?
Yeah, I was curious with regards to the grading. On figure 1, it shows that there is a forced retaining wall leads to sort of a walkout, I guess. Is that being fixed? It's not really clear to me on the new design, which I like. I really like the new design. I just wanted to address that big retaining wall there. Is that going?
Around the near the proposed parking area.
Yeah, there's figure 1 shows a large rock retaining wall there that seems to lead to a. Is that the level of your entry now, where that back door is?
Yeah.
So we're going to keep the retaining wall that's there? Not clear.
We're keeping the existing retaining wall and around the proposed parking area.
Yes, we are keeping it.
Here. Is that the question, or did you want to see something change there?
No, I think it was just a question, was it not?
Yeah, largely just a question, because I don't think it's all that clear how the site works.
Yes, Member Bosworth.
On page 235, it says existing stone retaining wall to be demolished.
I see that.
Maybe let us know what clarification is required, and we can provide that at the same time as the reviewed elevation.
Yeah, because it's on your drawing. Are you taking it out or not?
Sorry, we had a staff turnover here, so this project was handed over to us. So I am actually not sure whether it looks like we are. It looks like we are keeping the retaining wall, but repairing it / replacing it as required.
It couldn't be replaced without an engineered drawing. I mean, that's a 2-meter retaining wall. I think the grading needs to be fixed personally. You know, I think that has to be addressed by this application.
The intent is to repair the wall. We are only repairing the wall, not demolishing the wall. Which drawing is the most relevant?
I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of unanswered questions here.
Anything over a meter and a retaining wall is a engineered structure and therefore should be on the site plan. So if you're gonna have anything over a meter, whether it's existing or not, should show on the site plan, and it should be obvious to us what you're doing on that back end, because that's part of my agreement. I love the design of the building, but I'm curious as to how the parking area will work in the back end of the house, because it doesn't come together for me. So I don't know if you guys want to fix this and address it all in a deferral, but personally, I don't get it all.
We'd be happy to address that all in a deferral.
Okay, so you would like a deferral then, because then you can change the roof line, you can get that straightened out. I hate deferring everything, but on the other hand, there's just too many open questions here. What do the rest of the committee think?
Okay.
Yes,
I would say defer it, and then it gives the neighbor, the applicant, a little chance to work things out with the neighbor as well.
That's
okay.
fine.
Okay, so we'll defer that one too. And
I also like the design.
Thank you.
so we go to A49, and that is Ms. Walker.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-49/21 in the name of Pagano. The subject property is known municipally as 1058 Whitings Road, Unit 45. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on page 263 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicant proposes to construct a one-story garage and a one-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. The resulting lot coverage will be 10.6% on the entire lot and 11% within 200 feet of the high water mark, where 10% is permitted. This circulated notice and the site plan indicated that the proposed boathouse would be 51.5 feet in length, where 50 feet is permitted. The applicant has since revised the proposal to be less than 50 feet in length. The revised site plan can also be found on page 263 of the agenda package. Notice of this public hearing under the Planning Act was circulated 11 days in advance, and 6 submissions have been received to date. The first submission is by Nick Snyder, the Township's Chief Building Official. The Development Services Department has the following comment. A safe landing of at least 36 by 36 inches will be required in the front of the entry door to the boathouse. This requirement will be reviewed and conformed through the building permit application process. The second submission is by Tim Sopko, the Township's Public Works Technician. The Public Works Department has no objections. The third submission is by Chris and Jennifer Anderson, neighboring property owners to the north at 47 Sandy Point Road. The submission is as follows. We are writing to confirm our support for the requested variance application, in particular the variance proposal to increase the lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark from 10 to 11%, and also to increase the lot coverage total property from 10 to 11% to permit the increased size of a garage from 256 square feet to 555 square feet. Joe and Helena shared their dock and boathouse plans with us prior to the construction. They seem appropriate, tasteful, and consistent with the existing cottage, buildings, and shoreline. It is unfortunate that the existing garage needs to be moved a handful of feet versus making a small concession that would avoid further cutting of trees and clearing of rock. Kind regards, Chris and Jennifer Anderson. The fourth submission is by Bill Blair, neighboring property owner to the south at 43 Sandy Point Road. The submission is as follows. Mr. Pagano and I have agreed on the following. 1, that the boathouse coverage reduction will be taken from the lake end rather than the shoreline end to provide some relief to impeding the view from the dock at 43 next door. 2, on this basis, we are in agreement with the variance proposal to increase the square footage of the total lot coverage and the coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark by 1%. 3, with respect to the garage, we would prefer that the existing garage remain in its current position and size rather than moving it. This structure has been in place for decades and would be a preferred location. Moving it closer to the traveled road would potentially impede sight of approaching traffic while exiting our shared driveway. We trust you'll incorporate these thoughts into your review of the application. Yours truly, Bill Blair. The fifth submission is by David Russell Hockey, an area property owner. The submission is as follows. I am writing to provide my support for the variance application submitted by Joe and Helena Pagano for the above referenced property that is being considered at a meeting on September 13th, 2021. I have enjoyed a long-standing friendship with the Paganos dating back more than 15 years. After a visit to my cottage, they acquired the property in 2016, and since that time have made extensive improvements to the cottage buildings and exterior landscapes. The next phase of their project was to include a new docking and boathouse. I have reviewed their plans and believe it would be an excellent addition to the overall property and enhance the aesthetics of our shoreline. I understand the variance proposal to increase the lot coverage for within 200 feet of the high water mark from 10 to 11%, and also an increase in lot coverage from 10 to 11% to permit an increase in the size of the garage from 256 square feet to 555 square feet. I am in full agreement for this to proceed as requested. It is unfortunate that they are required under the application to move the existing garage. The Paganos have invested a lot of time and money into to improve the property, and this additional cost that seems totally unnecessary. Seems totally unnecessary in my view. Nevertheless, if that is what it takes to get the project approved, so be it. I trust this letter is sufficient and to express my support. If you require anything further, please contact me. The sixth submission is by Shelley Gibson and Robert Schultz, area property owners. The submission is as follows. We are neighbors of Helena and Joe Pagano. We are writing to confirm our support of their variance application. Helena and Joe have made their cottage one of the most environmentally conscious and attractive properties on our point. They take deep pride in their cottage, and their current plans are very tasteful and will blend nicely into the shoreline. The variance proposal to increase the lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark from 10% to 11% and also increase the lot area on the total property from 10% to 11% should, in our opinion, be approved. They have also told us that the current garage, which is 20 feet within the 200 feet of the high water mark, will need to be moved. This will require a lot of trees to be cut down, which we think is unnecessary. Having said that, we do understand the need for the township to have these rules in place, but maybe a concession should be made in this situation. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend the following conditions. 1, that the sun decks in front of the sleeping cabin be removed. 2, that the easterly shoreline pathway be removed. 3, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities for the revegetation of the shoreline buffer. This agreement is to be registered on title. Staff have also just received an email this morning from the applicant's agent requesting that this application be deferred to give them an opportunity to discuss the recommended conditions with staff. I understand that the applicant is in attendance to speak on the matter. Staff have no further comments at this time, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Walker. And I believe the applicant or the applicant's agent here wishes to speak on this as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's Rick Hunter at Landscape, 104 Kimberley Avenue in Bracebridge, P1L 1Z8. As Ms. Walker indicated, we received the report, I believe, on Friday, and have been discussing the proposed conditions with our client over the weekend. We're actually requesting a deferral of the application so that we can address those conditions, ideally to meet on site with staff so that we fully understand the extent of the changes and the implications of those changes. The existing sleeping cabin does have a walkout onto the front, and for instance, it's unclear whether a condition would allow any kind of replacement to that. Also, we wanted to get into a little more detail on the landscape adjustments that are being proposed. So with that, again, while our preference would definitely be to have the application approved as submitted without any conditions, we understand that committee will probably want more input from staff on dealing with this. And we propose to try to meet with both Mr. Sharp and Ms. Walker on site sometime in the next couple of weeks so that we're able to come back to the next meeting, hopefully all on the same page. With that, I don't have any other comments. I'm available for questions if you wish, and I believe Mr. Pagano is also online and may wish to speak with the committee as well.
Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Pagano then.
Yes, good day, Chair Edwards and members of the Committee of Adjustment. As you know, I'm the owner. I live at 945 Halsham Court, Mississauga, L5J149. I'm the owner. My wife and I are the owners of property at 1058 Whitings, unit number 45. As you've heard, we've purchased property back in 2016. And since then, we've been making improvements, following all the permitting processes along the way. Unfortunately, in the construction of this boathouse, again, we were thinking we were following all the permits, but there was a issue around the coverage, which I understand now, and we're willing to make concessions around the size of the boathouse. I don't know if you see from the pictures, there was erected an iron structure on the dock, which we are going to, at our cost, downsize to what we've proposed in the proposal. And at the same time, are willing to move the garage, if that's what needs to happen. But just, looking at these other concessions that we received late last week, just really want to understand them better and don't understand why we need to do that as well at a considerable cost. But and I'm willing to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, sir. Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application?
One of the people who wrote in is here. I'll bring him in.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition or in favor?
I brought him in. If you want.
Okay, if you want to bring them in as well, please.
I don't think he's accepting Alan.
Okay, well, that's fine then. So you've asked for a deferral. I think we'll actually defer this and get on to the next application. And good luck with it, with the neighbors, and we'll get you sorted out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next application is A 2421.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A 2421 in the name of Beswick. The subject property is known municipally as 1051 Montgomery Drive, Unit 4. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan on 273 to 286 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. The applicants propose to demolish an existing dwelling, a dock, and a boathouse, and construct a new dwelling, dock, and a two-story boathouse. The application was adjourned at the June 14th Committee of Adjustment hearing. Committee adjourned this application in order for the applicant to redesign the dock and boathouse with boat slips facing towards the lake to the north. The dwelling was to be redesigned with a reduction in height, and the applicant correspond with the adjacent neighbors with the intent of understanding and addressing their concerns. The applicant has provided a revised site plan and drawing showing a reduced height of 38.5 feet instead of 41 feet. And the boat slips are facing north except for the smaller slip to the Sea-Doo and jet ski, which is facing east still. And the agent has said that they spoke to the neighbors. So relief is requested from the maximum permitted coverage of buildings within 200 feet. The permitted lot coverage on a category 1 lake is 10% or 5,733 square feet in this case. The proposed dwelling and boathouse will result in 6,307 square feet or 11%. Variance requested is 1% or 574 square feet over what is permitted. Relief is requested from the maximum permitted coverage of buildings on the entire lot. The permitted lot coverage on a category 1 lake is 10% or 5,800. In this case, the proposed dwelling and boathouse will result in 6,307 square feet, which is 10.9%. The variance requested is 0.9% or 507 square feet over what is permitted. Relief is also requested from the maximum permitted height of 35 feet. The proposed dwelling is 38.5 feet in height, and the variance requested is 3.5 feet. Staff are prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff recommend that a site plan agreement is entered into, along with securities requiring the completion and satisfactory implementation of a tree retention and inventory, and a revegetation plan and a stormwater management plan. I have no further comments at this time and happy to answer any questions that committee may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Darling. Is the applicant or applicant's agent here wishing to speak on this?
Yes, they're both in.
They're both here, so you can bring them in.
Hi, my name is Chris Pretotto. I'm the architect and agent. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, sir.
Hi. So yeah, we adjourned the last
Your
meeting.
full mailing address as well?
Oh, 8841 George Bolton Parkway, Caledon. Postal code is L7E2X8. Also joining us is Kevin Beswick, the owner of the property. So I guess after our last meeting, yes, the neighbors were consulted with and spoken with. We've revised the boathouse so that the main boat slips are now facing north and not towards the neighbor's property, although there's a small jet ski dock still facing east a little bit there. We also prepared renderings that I think we submitted to you as well, and we showed to the neighbors that would kind of show what the proposed building would look like from both the laneway and the water, just to show that it would be a reduced, you know, it wouldn't be affecting the tree canopy, which is considerable there. Also note that we reduced the height of the building by 3 feet to 38.5, and that the building is going to be located right on top of a very steep drop. So the grade that is being counted for as building height is actually the low point of that. So yeah, it'll be dropping like several meters between the front of the cottage and the rear. And I believe the neighbors are satisfied after the discussions we've had.
Okay. Anything else? And would the owner like to speak at this time?
Sure, it's Kevin Beswick. I met with the neighbors on July 22nd. The community was advised that I was going to come and formally meet them. I met with 3 of the neighbors. As far as I'm concerned, I addressed their concerns. I've had some correspondence back and forth. And as far as I'm aware, I've satisfied everything they've required, unless I'm blindsided by something. But I have not heard from them since.
Okay, thank you very much then.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support of this application? Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Well, there's no one else, so that's good. So we'll turn it over to committee. Any questions or comments? Yes, Member Green.
Am I muted? No.
No, you're okay.
I have a comment regarding the landscaping, and I apologize if I offend anybody, but my understanding, like just taking a look, the way the pine trees have been trimmed in this drawing, I think they're called Muskoka palm trees. And it's not really a natural shoreline buffer as I recognize Muskoka. And from what I can tell, and maybe I'm not sure there's a lot of deciduous, maybe there is in front of the building. It's hard to tell. I know I did speak to the planners on one occasion, and they said they define a shoreline buffer as 1 tree for every 10 linear feet, let's say, around, and the woods doesn't really look like that. But I hope that every 10 feet there's a tree remaining, because this looks very manicured compared to the natural environment, in my opinion.
Would you like to comment on that?
Which are you referring to? Site photos or renderings or the drawings?
I am referring to page 286.
Page 286.
And like, I don't see any Muskoka rock. I see a lot of mulch and grass. That's what it appears to be, but it's probably just the way you have it rendered, because I'm sure that's not what it looks like.
Yeah, it was more showing the canopy. I'm not sure if we have we did have software limitations where we could actually only render a certain amount of trees on there. But I think part of the conditions is that we work with a landscaping plan and so forth. And I think we're fully willing to just develop whatever's recommended there. Let me see. What page were you mentioning?
I was looking at page 286, and also the one that really struck me was
286.
285, where you show a natural pathway, but then, you know, I can't see what would retain the vegetation along the shoreline the way it's drawn. But it's probably just the way you have it drawn, because that's certainly not the way it would look.
Yeah, we didn't capture every tree on there, but it's more getting the concept across. We would, I think Kevin can confirm, but yeah, the meeting of one tree every 10 linear feet doesn't sound
I think
an issue.
I feel like the planners need to discuss what a vegetated buffer really is, so that we all understand it right now.
Yes, Member Treaser.
Sorry. The actual renderings are not corrected to the plans because they show the garage doors on the boathouse in the wrong place. They show them turned towards the side and they haven't been changed. The two renderings that you just mentioned, 285 and 286, were not corrected to match the plans. So in reality, I'm hoping the plans are correct and these renderings are just, I don't know, I call them, they're just kind of iffy things that are provided to show the building. I don't think they actually correctly show the site likely.
Yeah, the renderings were done quite a bit earlier than the boat. They were done ahead of time to show the neighbors, just to show them how from the laneway and from the waterway, how we would have that kind of vegetation buffer there. We hadn't yet really discussed the boathouse or twisted it, but that is the intent. The site plan is a more correct drawing than those renderings, which are a bit dated now.
What I will say is we do have site plan agreement with securities for tree retention, inventory, revegetation plan, and stormwater management. So that will be looked at by the planning staff. And I have Mr. Sharp wants to speak, so just 1 second.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. I just wanted to address Member Grogan Green's comment, and I will say that in reviewing the renderings, I shared many of the same concerns. They're showing a dwelling that's peeking over the mature tree canopy. I think based on the photos that we have from our site visit, this property has an extremely good shoreline buffer, and at the staff level, we're going to use every tool that we have in our planner's toolbox to ensure that that remains the case. So, that's what I will say with respect to this application and the existing on-site conditions. But with respect to what the township zoning bylaw requires in terms of a shoreline buffer and what some of the other mechanisms that we would use, for example, the tree preservation bylaw and the site alteration bylaw, what we're looking for is one tree every 100 square feet, 50 feet back from the high water mark, extending across the full width of a property. That's stated specifically in our zoning bylaw within the waterfront zoning provisions. So that's what we're envisioning in this case. And, the recommendations that we've put in front of you aim to maintain that significant vegetated buffer in front of the dwelling. And, you know, we're going to be looking at any replantings that can be possible, retaining vegetation beyond the proposed building envelope. So those are all things that we're going to be looking forward to bringing forward in the site plan agreement. Happy to elaborate if needed. Thank you.
Okay, yes, Member Bosworth.
Just building on what Mr. Sharp said, I would like a little bit of clarification. Often what we see is a requirement for replantings, but what is the best solution is if you don't cut any, don't cut any of the ground plants down in the first 50 feet and leave them as natural, because what often happens is it gets cleared right down to the waterway. Then we have a lot of, wood chips put down and garden-like plants put in, which is not natural revegetation. So I'm just really looking for clarification from Mr. Sharp that that's in fact what the township is trying to achieve.
Through you, Roberts. Those are
a minute.
Those are good comments. What I will say is that the township's tree preservation bylaw does allow for certain exemptions for limited pruning of branches less than 1 inch in diameter. In this case, we could look at measures such as including specific notes on the approved site plan or the landscape plan or whatever gets attached as a schedule to the registered site plan agreement, indicating that, not to say that no pruning would be required or permitted, but we could definitely beef up the standards that we typically include on a site plan agreement, just to make sure that we're not ending up with these, trees. I think Member Grogan Green referred to them as Muskoka palms or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. So, we definitely wouldn't want to see that happen in this instance, just given the obviously in any instance, but in this one in particular, with the variances that are being requested. Thank you.
If I could just have a second point on that. Thank you, Mr. Sharp. I think the best natural vegetation is the one that's already there. And I'm certainly not against cutting out some branches so that you can have a view of the lake. If you build a beautiful house as proposed, it would be a shame to not be able to see the lake at all. So, but you should only cut it out in the portion where you need the view, not everything right down to the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Member Quinn.
I think it's a good proposal now. I think he's done a great job of going to the neighbors and addressing the concerns and coming back with some adjustments that I feel are a compromise, and I think that the staff will take care of the tree cutting. I support this application.
Okay, any other comments? I will let the applicant have one last word.
I don't know if Kevin's unmiked. Would you like to speak,
Yeah,
Kevin?
well, he has his hand up.
I just want to assure council that we're going to keep maintaining as much natural vegetation as we possibly can. I think you can see the renderings are renderings, but we're building a substantial cottage there, and we will do what landscaping is definitely necessary and maintain all the natural vegetation that we need to. I love natural vegetation as much as everybody else, so I don't think that in the end of the day it's going to be a big concern.
Okay, thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? And I'll read the resolution if not. Moved by Member Treacer, second by Member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A2421 Beswick to permit the demolition of an existing dwelling, boathouse and dock, and the construction of a new dwelling with an associated sun deck, a 2-story boathouse, and a dock with the following variances being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 6,307 square feet or 10.9% of the entire lot area. 2, to permit a lot of 6,307 square feet or 11% within the lot area, 200 feet from the high water mark 3, to permit the proposed dwelling to be 35.8 feet in height. These variants are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, that a site plan agreement be entered into along with securities requiring completion and satisfactory implementation of a tree retention, inventory, revegetation plan, and a stormwater management plan. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And the reason.
With consultations with the neighbors and approved design of the boathouse and protection of the natural vegetation along the shoreline.
Okay, thank you. And the last application is A 4021 Novak.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Edwards. The next application to be heard is minor variance application A-40/21 in the name of Novak. The subject property is known municipally as 1827 Walker's Point Road. I would direct committee's attention to the submitted site plan and elevation starting on page 301 of the agenda package. The purpose and effect of the application is summarized as follows. Applicants propose to construct a single-story boathouse with a rooftop sun deck. This application was adjourned at the August 9th Committee of Adjustment hearing. The committee adjourned this application in order for the applicant to reduce the size of the proposed boathouse and to bring the proposed height into compliance with the township zoning bylaw. The applicant has provided a revised site plan and drawings. The width of the proposed boathouse has been reduced by a foot and the height has been brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw, which is 16 feet. The proposed boathouse will result in 10.9% lot coverage within 200 feet of the high water mark, where 11% was previously proposed and 10% is permitted. Staff have prepared a detailed report for committee's consideration. If committee is considering approval of the application, staff have recommended the following condition: that the existing shed be removed as intended or relocated on the property in compliance with the applicable zoning provisions. Staff have no further comments, and I'm happy to answer any questions from committee. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And is the applicant or applicant's agent here wish to speak on this?
They're both here.
They're both here? Okay, bring them in, please.
Good afternoon. Savas, Varadas of Plan Muskoka. I'm the agent for the application. I'm here with James Novak as well, who is the landowner for the application. I have some brief things to say, and then I will pass it along to James to speak a little bit about what he's been doing well between the deferral and today. So as you've heard from staff, there was a reduction to the size of the boathouse that's being proposed. It reduced the coverage from 11% to 10.9% in terms of the variances required to implement it. And primarily where a lot of the concern was coming from objecting neighbors in the previous meeting was the height as well. And the height was brought down into compliance with the zoning bylaws. So there's no variance for this boathouse. My recommendations so echo the staff's recommendations and sort of have been maintained throughout this process. I feel that the property can support additional lot coverage, and the 0.9% that's now being proposed appears to be able to be implemented on site without the property appearing overdeveloped. I just want to point out again that the boathouse, now in compliance with height, complies with all other matters of the zoning bylaw in terms of width and projection in those matters. There have been some improvements that were being carried forward from the previous proposal as well. As the committee may remember, there's a dock and a shoreline deck that's located closer to the neighboring property that's being demolished as part of this proposal as well. And the boathouse is more centrally located on the subject lands. There is the opportunity to increase shoreline vegetation and maintain that into features which would improve the look of the property as well. So I feel that the revised proposal meets the 4 tests of a minor variance, and I agree with staff's recommendation on that side of things. I will pass it over to James, who I know who's been in contact with the neighbors that had some concerns about it, and maybe he can just shed some light on his conversations. Thank you.
Thanks, Savas. Can you all hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Thumbs up, great.
I feel like we have the most coveted spot of the day, 12:45, the last hearing of the day, and prior to lunch. So thanks for taking the 3 hours, 45 minutes as council members. Here with my wife, Catherine. First, we appreciated the deferral that we received at the last time, which really allowed us to meet with our neighbors in person. As we were unable to do so, Catherine's actually pregnant. We're 5 months along, and we had some complications at the beginning of pregnancy. It didn't allow us to get to our neighbors in person, which we're now able to do. Along with some banana bread, we had some great conversations with them, took in all of their feedback, made sure that as neighborly as we could be, that we reduced the size in compliance of the boathouse. The boathouse is in compliance in all ways. And then due to the existing structures on land, we still need the minor variance request for the 0.9%. We also have explicit support from both of our primary neighbors to the north and south side of the property that would be most affected, both in email, and one of them was kind enough to send us a letter. And the last thing we'll say is that we are lifetime Muskoka cottagers, and myself grew up in Bala on Dark Lake, and so we're very, if for those that understand Dark Bay, just between Torrance and Bala, it's a very confined property. So we're very, very sensitive just to neighbors and overall look and feel of the Muskoka property. And my wife, though American, I was able to convince her to become Canadian on the first visit to Muskoka in the cottage, and she grew up on the water as well. So that we are lifetime cottagers ourselves. So I appreciate it, and also able to answer any questions about the changes that we've made since the last meeting.
Thank you very much. And I will ask, is there anyone else here wishing to speak in support?
No.
Anyone in opposition?
No.
No? Okay. Are there questions from the members? Seeing none? Okay. I will read the resolution. Moved by member Creaser, second by member Bosworth. Be it resolved that application A 4021 Novak to permit the construction of a new one-story boathouse with the following variance being granted. 1, to permit a lot coverage of 4,077 square feet or 10.9% within lot area 200 feet from the high water mark. These variances are granted as shown on the plan attached to the notice of decision and are subject to the following condition. 1, an existing shed be removed as intended or relocated on the property in compliance with the applicable zoning provisions. This approval shall remain in effect for 3 years from the date of decision. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? And that is carried. And, thank you for meeting with your neighbors. I always tell people, if you talk it over with your neighbors beforehand, it makes our job an awful lot easier. But thank you for meeting with them. And
yeah, no problem.
Congratulations on your upcoming event.
I got to share a beer and banana bread with them, so I was happy to do it.
Good. Very good. And reasons. Support of the neighbors. And
Adjustments to the height.
adjustment to the height, yeah.
Which makes it minor in nature.
That's right. So we will now do the next one. Is moved by member Quinn, second by member Creaser. Be it resolved, the meeting adjourned at 12:47 p.m. All those in favor? Sorry, the
I object. I've been having such a great time. I want to stay longer.
I disagree with member Bosenworth for a change.
Okay.